What's going on with you?
Yo, another day in the lab, baby. So it's always a good day.
Oh,
it's always a good day when we in the lab. You want policing to be better in your communities? The best policing that you can that can happen in any community are people that's actually from the community. And that
once again, Rick, host BNY podcast, now known as What Happened Week with BNY Dev. How you feeling, man?
I'm in here.
What's good, comment section?
Here.
Do we drag our people down when sometimes they don't deserve it? For sure, absolutely. In this situation, this man deserves every single dragging that we can do, because this is not an example of us.
But you got the angles. You got the knowledge of the game, bro.
This is where you're getting at, the IQ.
Down. Like, he's telling you what's going on. He was a bad husband. He was just doing things his way. He's apologizing to his wife, like, yo.
Pat ourselves from the back for that one, because if you ain't give yourself awards, I mean, who is?
Yeah, no boy.
Hey. Let's go and bring these mics in. Now, we ain't going. I'm not going. I'm telling you right now, I'm not going that hard with it. I'm going to keep this beard level. Bonaparte, keep playing. Appreciate you. Let's bring this camera in. Let me just talk a little bit of that conversation. We're talking about this beard, looking at the old intro. Mm-hmm. And it was funny because Sarah Proctor's here not too long ago, and she was like, how long ago was that? Like, referring to years. I'm like, Sarah, it wasn't that long ago. Like, it was literally like 6 months or so. So yeah. I don't know. We'll keep it forever. It works for now. But
so that's not your pandemic beard. That's
no. I did grow a small one, but
letting it grow.
Yeah, I'm just letting it rock out and see what happens.
All right.
Yeah, I ain't go full Rick Ross with it, but
like I said, if the missus is with it.
Hey, yeah. We'll see what goes on from there. Let's get into it. We got a couple special guests in the building today, but first and foremost, Jamila Smith, welcome to the podcast. A round of applause for you. Round of applause. Absolutely. Let me clear something up real quick before we do anything else. Did not replace Dev. Dev is working. Schedule's busy. I got my brother-in-law here, my man Jay Honeyman. The people haven't seen you, man.
They haven't, not in a long time.
It's funny because AJ, Jay, whatever you want to call him. We got Jay for the podcast purposes, but he's been on the podcast before we actually started going local, and he helped out a lot with behind the scenes. Huge. As far as a couple of things. So, yeah, definitely appreciate you coming back through, hold it down.
I actually
Dad's been working.
The idea out here for the shed.
What's that?
I actually came up with this studio idea.
Yeah, he was. Absolutely. Needed assist last night. Hey, you know what? Maybe so, but it is what it was. Nothing wrong with that. And Angela, I did see a comment. You've been asking me all day. I do have the paperwork, and I will send that to you after the podcast, too, as well. I have it. I absolutely have it. So do not worry. Let's go through some of these comments before we get back to it. So, Jamila, people saying hello to you.
Hello. Actually, it's my fault. I didn't correct you when I first started. It's Jamila.
My bad. Oh, this whole entire time?
The whole time, right?
But now I feel like a jerk.
No, don't. So that's been the story since I've been in school, is people have called me by the incorrect name. I've kind of, let it go. Mm-hmm. Kids with different names. It's like, okay, all right. But it wasn't until my father. We had parent-teachers night. Mm-hmm. And I've shared this story with a few people. We had parent-teachers night, and 7th grade, Mrs. Jacobs. And she's like, okay, so how's my daughter doing? She's like, oh, she's a great student, always has her hand up. We really enjoy her. Jamila's great. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, well, this person sounds like a great girl, but this is Jamila. I'm Jamila's dad. And of course, I'm young, mortified. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed.
Right.
And he's like, no, make people say your name correctly. It's Jamila. So me, Jamila.
Jamila.
There it is. That's the story. And ever since then, I've been working on it. So
okay, Jamila with an I.
Yes, with an I, but the eyes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. If I jack it up at some point tonight, I promise I'm not doing it to make fun, make light. It'll be by pure accident. Definitely want to mess up anyone's name. Let's get some of these comments too as well. Oh, let's see. Pascal, what's going on with you? District 2. That's right. District 2. One time for District 2.
Yes.
Right here in White Plains. Yes. Come on now. Let's get it. Absolutely. Wonder where Dev's been at. What? The running joke in here in the comment section is cutting the grass. So, man talking about with scissors. Hey, somebody get on the t-shirt too as well. That cutting grass. We're gonna make that run. I like that.
Oh yeah.
All right. Nicole, what's going on with you too as well? Zebby, Pascal, I'm still traumatized from last night's show. Look, I'll tell you what, it was interesting. It was interesting, but
It was. I mean, and what I've said earlier is that's not me. That's not my story. So hopefully this is interesting. I can share my platform with the people, answer every question that comes through if I can. But there is nothing salacious or deep, so this won't be like Days of Our Lives or All My Children. But I'll try to make it good for y'all.
I mean, we've had Mink on here, we've had Tross on here. It's been a wild couple of weeks, but I've seen you're talking not deep or salacious. I've seen your platform, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Your website is very
Extensive.
yeah, there.
Extensive.
Kelly, hey, give me a large too as well. What we got? Got about 10 people in here. Let me break some news. We're gonna go around the room. Then we get this thing started. So, I guess we can announce this too as well. July 14th, Charles County. Make sure y'all save the date. We have your very own Commissioner BJ Bowling will be on the podcast. He's coming out here. I just solidified that one as of 30 minutes ago. BJ Bowling be on here on July 14th. So that should be a very, very interesting night in Charles County too as well. So we'll see how that goes. But I don't want that to take steam. That's just an announcement for the people right there. We'll go from there. But AJ, how's the week been, man?
It's been great, man. I love being up here. Love coming down here. Being up there and coming down here. But yeah, it's been great.
Where you coming down from? I should have moved down here.
It's coming soon to a theaters near you. Yeah, so I just recently, for the people that don't know, served in the military. Best branch Navy. I know you got difference of opinions there for that one.
I ain't saying nothing. Keep talking.
But yeah, so we just moved from Norfolk, Virginia. We live up in Silver Spring now. Looking to, of course, move closer to you guys. Obviously, we're brother-in-laws. Our kids are literally same age group. Trying to get them in the same activities.
Mm-hmm.
Been keeping up with the podcast the last few weeks. Just to see how Charles County is. It's interesting in my opinion.
Makes you want to move down here.
I can't wait.
Well, let me know. I'm out and about. I'm in these streets.
For sure.
Knocking on doors. So I see the for sale signs. I'll go ahead and make a little note.
Let me know. Yeah.
This community, that community. So
we got a little bit
absolutely.
left on our lease up in Silver Spring. Like I said, we just moved here in April. So, but yeah, we're actually looking to build a house out here. This is gonna be our forever spot. So
it's a good spot for it. We have some nice land.
Especially coming from Illinois,
Virginia.
I had to bring my roots with me. I brought my camo hat.
But you already fit in Southern Maryland.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, appreciate you hitting me up today, having me out here. Again, pretty familiar with the process of the studio equipment stuff. So
Yeah.
definitely appreciate it, man.
Help me fix the issue pre-podcast too as well. You got to see that one live.
I did.
Yeah.
I felt privileged.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes, it was extensive.
Jamila, there it is.
Yes, sir.
How's your week been?
It's been great. I mean, we're only into Tuesday, but we've been hitting the street, speaking with neighbors, hitting up different communities. Excuse me. Most recently this weekend, we were out in the Southampton area, so we got caught up in the rain. But prior to that, we've been up and down 228, hitting, Berry Hills Manor, Laurel, what is it? That neighborhood's escaping me. Either way, it's right across from Bracy Estates. But just getting out and talking to people. Appreciate that, Charles County has so many community events where you can get out and speak to residents and get a feel for what their concerns are. But I love, connecting with people, speaking one-on-one, because there are things they'll tell you one-on-one they may not tell you in a group. So I've been appreciative. Just, the weather's been great. So finding time. My kids are in Camp Canvas.
Okay.
So they're helping out with the campaign.
Okay.
My oldest is 13, so letting her see kind of the inside of like civics. This is Civics 101 firsthand. How you run for office, how you establish a platform, how you speak to people, how you connect, make eye contact. Never make a promise you don't intend to keep. Only speak to what you truly believe in. Letting all my kids see that firsthand. This is important. So I could have signed them up for camp, even though it's hell of expensive. But could have signed them up for camp, but I wanted them to see this one-on-one. So when you see me out and about, my kids are there.
Well, who doesn't love the free labor?
That's it. When you break it down, that too.
I don't
So
think
if my camera angles are off on my post, it's because my photographer's 13.
Yeah. Charles County, do we have any child labor laws down here? I don't know. You run for school board. You tell me that a little bit later. But I ain't gonna say nothing if you don't. So. Nah, I'm all for it too as well. Let's see. Hey, everybody here, give a like to the podcast. Helps us grow. Give it a share too as well. Definitely appreciate it. And with that being said, I'll plug that a couple more times. We'll go from there. Absolutely. All right, Jamila, give us some background. Who are you? Why are you running? Great
question. So I'm Jamila Smith. I live right here in District 2. I've been a Charles County resident for almost 12 years now. I will say I'm originally from New York. I've worked in education for over 15 years. So when we talk about things such as Title I or school-wide programs or teacher professional development or early learning, I get all those terms. We speak about free and reduced lunch or free and reduced meals or farm students. Mm-hmm. I understand that. So why am I running? I believe this is a great time to run. The state has made a true commitment to education through the blueprint. Mm-hmm. They have said that they are looking not just at how, as a state, we can grow our students to be sort of global citizens, but holding each single county accountable. So not just the 23 counties in Baltimore City, we're all being held accountable. And so I think it's a great time. They've made an investment financially. They've put together an accountability implementation board to make sure that the blueprint is in fact implemented with fidelity, mm-hmm. And that every school system is being held to the high standards that they've set. In my time in education, I've never seen something like this. So I'm very excited, very committed to the students here, committed to my community. I've served in a number of capacities, from being on the election review board all the way to being a PTO member for both a elementary school and for middle school. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about, being a public servant, or we talk about sort of being a servant leader, I feel as if I've been in that position for quite a while, and education has always been at the forefront. I think you can speak to anyone, any conversation I've been in, whether it's been during the Citizens Police Academy, or whether it's been through the Citizens Academy that's offered by the county government. Every conversation we've had, I want to know, how can this benefit kids? How can kids benefit? How can families get invested in this? Mm-hmm. How can we grow sort of who our students are and sort of where they can potentially go? We're looking to grow global citizens, not just, the inner workings of Charles County, or not just the inner workings of the four corners of their neighborhood, but truly getting them to see that there is a world beyond where we currently live, and we want them to be a part of it in some way. So that's why I'm running.
It's a very extensive answer. You say extensive, right?
That's going to be the word of the night.
Yeah.
I want the people to know and understand sort of who I am and decide whether or not they would support sort of some of the vision and ideas that I have for the school board. So
you mentioned a lot there. Talk to me about, let's break that down like an ounce of glue. Talk to me a little bit about your time on the PTO.
The PTO. So when my oldest was in Diggs Middle School, Diggs Elementary School.
One time for Diggs, okay.
One time for Diggs.
Hey, District 2, baby.
Absolutely. Under the leadership of Principal Calvert, who actually just recently retired. Mm-hmm. Great administrator, some excellent educators, excellent and committed educators, excellent paraprofessionals. I mean, it's just a great school all around. Mm-hmm. Great climate. Was on the PTO. We did a number of fundraising events, activities, making sure that there was family engagement. Of course, when my oldest then went to Davis, when she moved to middle school, that was during the pandemic. And like all parents, I recognize that, she's going to need something a little different because she transitioned to middle school in the midst of a pandemic than my youngest two, who were still in elementary school, would need. So once in-person learning began, I sort of switched from being on the Diggs PTO to being a Davis PTO member. Mm-hmm. So, and there were some years in between there. But when I was on the Davis PTO, I served as the secretary for the PTO. So trying to find, again, ways of engaging parents, ways of engaging teachers, fundraising activities. We held a number of, fall bazaars, spring festivals, trying to find ways of raising money to support educators and to support student trips and things like that. So, always engaged in some way.
What did you learn from that as far as engaging with the parents? Any problems that popped up? Anything you were able to help solve?
No, that's a great question. So, our numbers did decline. So, of course, of a school of that size, you would expect to have a huge sort of turnout for the PTO meetings.
Right.
And we didn't necessarily have that. It wasn't our experience. But I think what helped was having it be hybrid. So whether parents were commuting back to work, commuting from work to home, or whether or not they were running, some of their younger kids to events, they were able to chime in like via their phone. So having that hybrid model, I think, was definitely helpful. I think also finding various ways of engaging with parents. It can't always be, we had a meeting and that was it. You didn't attend, so you miss out. But thinking about, like, do you have a newsletter? Do you have small subgroups that perhaps are working with, parents of the 6th grade, the 7th grade, the 8th grade? I think it's actually asking parents, how do you want to be engaged? Like, what's helpful? Like, is a newsletter helpful? Would you prefer to, hear directly from a teacher? Would you prefer to hear directly from one of the PTO members who is specific to your grade? I think asking specifically how a community wants to be engaged, I think, went a long way.
Okay.
So,
you mentioned Department of Education too as well. What is that? What's your role again with that?
I don't know that I mentioned that. But yes, I am a civil servant. I work for the federal government. I do.
Okay. I don't want to.
Well, no. So there are rules. There's the Hatch Act, right?
Okay.
Which essentially says that you can't use your position to advocate for an elected position, which I would never do. So I'm very familiar with education through sort of my 9 to 5. Anyone can, of course, look it up to see sort of where I work. But in terms of me going into it and explaining, I won't necessarily do that, just because then it may seem that, I'm using my position to advocate for elected position.
Okay. All right. Just want to clear that up right there too as well. Make sure we're on the same page. Let's get some of these comments. AJ, you have anything before I read a few of these comments from the good people of Charles County?
I've been following the comments as well, just to make sure we're on track here.
You're good to go. Angela, how you doing today? How do you feel about she asked, how do you feel about the Biden's proposal to tie school lunch funding to the gender curriculum?
Say that again? Tie school lunch to the...
How do you feel about Biden's proposal to tie school lunch funding to gender curriculum?
I've never heard of a gender curriculum. Angela's going to have to give me a little bit more about that. What exactly is a gender curriculum?
We'll let her explain that. Angela, I know you're still
that's
here.
a new term. I've never heard that.
We'll keep that going. Let me go down, make sure I didn't miss anything.
So that's not a thing.
I'll let them. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. All right, Kelly. Is there anything in the works that will require a candidate to actually live in the district they are running for?
So we do. So for the school board, you are required to live in the district that you're running for. So I do live in District 2. All the other candidates live in their district. This is the first year in which the school board elections are split along commissioner lines, so district lines. Previously, they were all at-large seats, similar to our commissioners. Our state senator thought it would be a great idea to ensure that there was representation within each of the districts, and there was a close alignment and understanding for the needs of said district as candidates were running, which I fully support. Looking at, I mentioned earlier that my kids went to, Diggs Elementary School right here in Waldorf. Well, we're in White Plains, but up the road in Waldorf. The needs of that community and sort of the makeup of that school looks a little different than Indian Head Elementary or Mount Hope Nanjamoy. So wanting to ensure that when I'm talking about District 2, I'm not just thinking about the microcosm of sort of where I live here on kind of the outside of Waldorf, but thinking about the entirety of District 2. So thinking about Bryan's Road, Indian Head, Nanjamoy, Pomfret, White Plains, that portion of La Plata that is ours as well. And of course, Waldorf too. That's the entirety of District 1. We're one of the largest districts in terms of land mass.
Yeah. And Kelly cleaned up. He says he thought you was running for county commissioner. So that's why.
Wow. Okay.
So all good.
No, Kelly. I am Jamila Smith, school board candidate for District 2. If you want to PM me and let me know sort of what area you live in, I'd be happy to try to make my way to your community so we can have a chat so you can know more about sort of who I am for District 2 and actually for all kids in Charles County.
We think one of the biggest issues facing, we're just talking District 2 as well here, obviously all of Charles County you represent, but we think some of the biggest issues that are facing Charles County schools today.
That's a great question. So, and we've heard it before. I mean, it's definitely mental health. I think what people have to realize is that kids essentially spent almost 2 years at home. Almost 2 years. So my child went from, she graduated at the very beginning of the pandemic. So the pandemic hit in like April, and she graduated that May. And so she missed out on her entire 5th grade year, which was virtual. And then, well, I shouldn't say that she missed out, but her entire 5th grade year was virtual. And then 6th grade, part of it was virtual. Wait, no, am I confusing myself? No, she's going to the 8th grade. Yes, for 6th grade, part of it was virtual, then they went back in person. So we have kids who are academically working to get back on track, if they're not already on track. But socially, where are they? Socially, I feel as if they're back where they were pre-pandemic. And so they're trying to figure out a way to, like, how do I interact with my peers? Like, how do I talk to people? How do I, they've regressed. So academically, they're probably on track, but socially, not necessarily. That social distancing was definitely had an impact on our kids. And so in terms of mental health, having friends, being able to talk to people, being able to look people in the eye, that goes a long way as well. I think our kids are struggling. And so when you're seeing what appears to be the increase in school violence, I think it truly is because kids are struggling. They are trying to figure this out, and they're meeting, a wall of sorts. So I absolutely support the superintendent sort of infusing more mental health counselors into the school, in addition to school counselors. They had a huge contract to support free mental health services, therapy services for any child in the county who wanted it. It was free through the school system. She actually hired a position which was I don't want to mess this up, it's something like mental health liaison, the person who oversaw that contract. This wasn't a position that existed prior to the pandemic, but it's absolutely needed. So I think the county is taking the right steps, but we definitely need to do more. We need to figure out how to get some of these tools in the hands of parents. Parents are the first teachers. So if parents don't fully understand how to support their child when they come home with all of this anxiety and anger and frustration in terms of channeling it properly before they go back into the school building, essentially it's just a cycle that keeps repeating itself. So in terms of some of the biggest challenges, it absolutely is mental health.
Yeah, and one thing with, like I said yesterday to everybody that's on the school board, mental health is very near and dear to me. Same way we work out the body, same way we should work out the mind too as
Absolutely.
well. And, a lot of issues that, kids and, some of the homes, things they see in school too as well, they need to be able to process this stuff,
Right.
in the right manner. So taking the approach to mental health is great. Now, you mentioned that this program, it was free at the point of service. Okay. So how is that? Is that I guess is that out the education budget? I know you said it's free for the child, but how does that
So
work on
that's
the
a great
back end?
question. I'm not sure if it's a part of our sort of static education budget or if it was a part of some of the emergency relief funds that came from the federal government. The county was in receipt of, they're called ESSER funds. So these were an infusion of funds that came from Congress to support all states and eventually all districts to be able to deal with the results of the pandemic. And it was up to the school system. Of course, there were certain parameters in place for how they could spend it, but the school system was required to have consultation with the public, engage the public on how the funds should be spent. I know Dr. Navarro and her communications team put out a series of surveys via Facebook, just making sure that parents were able to share, not parents, but the entirety of the community were able to share what were the educational priorities and how the funding should be spent. They then took that funding, put together a budget, sent it to the Maryland State Department of Education, who subsequently approved it. And I believe in that budget was a line item for mental health, for counselors, as well as some additional tutoring services and several other things. I think what we have to figure out is once that funding ends, how do we then roll it into the annual budget that is sort of Charles County's education budget? Because I don't believe these mental health issues are going to go away overnight.
Oh, absolutely not.
It's not just going to be a year or two of free counseling and everyone's gravy. Oh, did I say gravy? Everyone's good. But it's trying to figure out so how do we move this into sort of the standard budget, the standard annual budget?
Okay. We'll see what happens from there.
Absolutely.
And I know it's part of your platform too as well, which we'll get into. But first, let's get some of these comments. AJ, I want you to check this one out right here. You see this where my cursor's over? Check that link out on check that link out. All right, let's go through some of these comments. Amanda, come on through our neighborhood. Tarrington Creek gets no love. Oh, I know. Oh, Tarrington Creek. That's not. I'm not going to dox myself, but I know. Yeah, that's absolutely. Shout out to Tarrington Creek too as well. Shout out to Tarrington Creek. Laura Kelly, can you talk about what role you think the arts play in education?
No, that's a great question. I think they play a big role. I think we have a lot of creative students here in the county, and we need to ensure that we continue funding an arts program to support them. And when I talk about arts, it's not just visual arts. There's also performing arts. There are a variety of different arts types, and I think we should find a way to continue to fund them. My kids love to draw. That's one of their outlets. I'm forgetting their art teacher over at Davis, but he was amazing in terms of connecting with kids, helping them through things, helping them understand the layout for different graphics and design. There are definitely lucrative careers post high school that kids can get into. So I think we absolutely should continue to fund and support the arts.
Yeah, and who's maybe comment section help me out. The art teacher that recently did Bensville Park, the basketball court.
Drawing a blank.
I'm not sure. No pun intended with that.
Took me a second. I was like, what?
Hey, you had jokes. I got a few. I got a few too as well. Should have heard on a pre-production, just left and right, like a Chappelle Show comedy special. No, with art too as well, it grows the brain. As far as like my son, he loves to draw, just sit there, just get his thoughts out. It clears the mind. I almost consider like getting a good night's sleep, like dreaming. Like you get rid of all that just input from the day, output it properly, then you get a nice clear brain, a nice clear thought pattern, brain fog, get away from all that. So whatever we can do to invest in that, I'm all for. I think it's good for cognitive development.
Absolutely. And this is, kind of random, but kind of related as well. I know that there's a program in Florida where they travel and sort of they dive for sort of sunken slave ships. And they sort of go down and they look at all the artifacts that are down there, and some of them they can't bring back up. So they have artists who are also scuba divers go down and sketch the materials that are down there on the seafloor, what they look like, and then they come back up and determine whether or not they should excavate, should they bring it to the surface, should it remain sunken. And those are artists. So I think there are careers that like we haven't even explored that the arts could support, that our kids should be made aware of. There are so many different career paths that the arts can open up.
I'm all for it. Let's see the comment section. Darrell, what's going on, Darrell? Hawkins, is that his name? Nicole, St. Charles art teacher. There we go. Man, do we love Bensville Park basketball court. I know Shauna, Carlos, I think Pascal, Nicole. I think all y'all did the basketball court recently too, as well as far as painting. If you could drop the name for that one, that was a really good project and really cool for the public. Are we good with Angela's link?
Yeah. So
Angela, we got you. Let's go to your question.
Reading up. What was the initial question first off?
So gender, curriculum, school lunch.
School lunch, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So basically what it's saying is the Biden Department of Agriculture has announced that all state and local agencies that receive federal funding for meals, a category that includes schools, must not discriminate based on sexual orientation and gender identity. In the press release, the USDA Food and Nutrition Service, FNS, announced that it would now interpret the ban on discrimination based on sex included in Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972 and food-related legislation and programs, such as SNAP, formerly the Food Stamp Program, to include sexual orientation and gender identity.
No, so thank you for bringing up that link. I wasn't aware of that. But these are federally protected classes. So even if you talked about just school lunch, you're also talking about essentially all of your federal funding. If for some reason Charles County decided they wanted to discriminate against a class of people, yes, you would lose your funding for school lunch. You would also lose Title I. You would also lose several other programs as well. Personally, I'm not for discriminating against any class of people. I don't believe it's right, especially for our students or an adult. So, I'll just full stop right there. I don't believe discrimination is right.
Yeah, and I think that's basic humanity too as well. Just
basic.
Yeah, it's not
right.
Yeah, it also stated in the link too. So about like using bathrooms in the locker rooms and stuff like that too. So just because somebody's transgender doesn't mean they should worry about what bathroom to use when they're going to school. That's what the statement as well. So on the link.
Okay.
I believe you would actually lose some state funding as well. You can't discriminate and receive taxpayer dollars.
No, that's not. No,
So,
that's day one stuff. Tammy, how you doing? How do you feel about balancing the PBIS program with more discipline? An educator I know was hit by a student and a punishment was lunch detention. That's it. How do you feel about tighter discipline?
So those are great questions. So one, I would like to explore further our discipline policy. I mean, I continue to hear that there are gaps, there are things that are being misconstrued, there's not fair sort of enforcement across a number of different schools. So before I speak on it, I'd like to know more about it. At this point in time, I don't fully understand, or not fully understand, I don't fully know the discipline policy or its relation to the PBIS program. So Tammy, what I can commit to is learning more about it and being able to address your question at a later point in time.
Well, I know as far as Charles County, I know it's a lot of, and a lot of redirecting. Like, kid does something, I like to speak about at least the elementary level, kid does something, bad. They try to fix the issue and try to essentially redirect the mindset. I don't know if I'm really explaining that correctly or not, just from what I've seen. But as far as a teacher getting hit by a student, I mean, that's nothing. And they say all it was lunch detention. And then we're already going through a teacher shortage too, as well.
Right.
Of course, across the nation. But I mean, we got to do something about that. Like, they can't just be.
No, that makes a good point. That makes a good point.
Do you think that punishment would suffice as far as lunch detention?
I mean, I think, well, if that child were to put their hands on another student, I'm not sure what the punishment would be. I would presume that it would be more severe than just lunch detention. But to put your hand on another adult, I would think I would think the grade that we would use to determine like how we ratchet up the punishment should definitely be moved. I mean, I'd like to explore that case more. But not having all the facts behind it, if the fact is just a child hit a teacher and they got lunch detention, that's all there is. There's no other context to it. But there's always context. I don't think it's right. There should be something additional. But in terms of what that is, I'm not certain, which is why I want to explore the discipline policy.
If I feel like it changed, it's like this based on what I've seen. It's like, I don't know, kind of depends. Like, who's ever the person, and like the set of rules doesn't, I don't know, it really follows. Yeah, exactly. It's like,
right.
Maybe it's a Tuesday, I feel this way. If it's a Thursday, maybe this. I haven't seen like one standard.
I mean, let's think about in the workforce. You have human capital policies. You have policies that guide what the severity, like punishment and the severity of that punishment.
Okay.
I presume it's the same in school. I would have to take a closer look at it. But I presume that, first infraction, second infraction, there would be a scale based upon what the issue is, and then whether it's not it's the first, second, or third offense.
Yeah, I would definitely like to see something a little bit stronger than
lunch detention for someone who hit an adult.
Yeah, because I know. I'm not going to say any names here, but I know.
What? I thought you love names.
I love names, unless it's private.
I've seen
private citizens. I would not.
BNY,
I'm not going to dox a private citizen publicly. I'll throw out names all day. I got no problem with that. Privately, I'll let you be.
Just try to turn it around a little bit.
Especially when you give BNY information, but you got students that have straight up threatened teachers, and nothing has happened to the student at all. I mean, making marks like, I'm gonna slit your throat like this, and then nothing happens.
Right.
So there has to be some form of standard, or I don't know there is a discipline policy. I haven't really seen it.
So, and I find that case interesting as well, because I know that they have in the schools where, they've called parents to say, your child has said something that was inflammatory, toward another student. It was aggressive, just wanting to make you aware that it's there. Yep. Right now we're documenting it, but should it happen again, like this is what the next infraction would be. Like, I know, like, firsthand have spoken to parents, like, that's the process. So I find it interesting that for that one case with that citizen or that teacher where, a student's making the, I'm going to get you slice across the neck, and there's no infraction or no repercussion. I find that interesting because I know that part of the discipline policy I at least know. Yeah,
or students recording teachers in classroom and nothing happens with them too as well. So when you do get you do get your hands on that during the election cycle, I'd definitely like to further go over that because I'm curious of some thoughts.
That should be public information. I mean, I can look into that. That definitely should be public information.
Yeah, because it just seems like there could be something there, but it's not really being enforced. If just based off the things that I've seen, and I'm one person, but I hear a lot of stories.
So I see one here.
Go ahead.
What are your top 2 areas of focus for your first year on the board?
First year, I love it. So it's not the first day. People love to go
First
day
year.
one. What are you going to do?
Year.
I'm like, day one. It's like less than 24. So yeah. So first year, there's a lot to do. So one, I'd love to have a public safety forum. So if it's not, I know we're not sworn in until around December or January. So if between now and December, January, there hasn't been a public safety forum, I'd like to host one in which we bring, Dr. Navarro, her team, the mental health liaison to speak holistically about like what that contract has done for students, that mental health contract I spoke about earlier, what that's done for students. Is it helpful? Is there a need for an increase, a decrease? Like what are they seeing? But again, bringing the message to the people. And when I talk about a public forum, I'm not speaking about something that's in one location. What I'm talking about is something that's in all 4 districts. So essentially it's repeated 4 times.
Copy.
Even for the redistricting board that I was on, we were required to have public forums, and we intended to have them in all 4 districts. It's just our COVID numbers spiked and we end up only being able to do them virtually. But the intent was to have them physically in all 4 districts. So I think that when we do these types of forums, they should be spread throughout the county. I would also like to invite the sheriff's office. I think many families, some of the concerns around SROs stem from not fully understanding the role of the SRO. So having the sheriff come out and speak specifically to what is the role of SROs, what do they do, and then hear from the community where there may be inequities between an SRO sort of functioning at one school versus another school. Like where is there not consistency in sort of the discipline policy or the way in which those officers engage with students.
Right.
And let me just take a little bird walk for a second. I think it's my belief that a lot of families are perhaps up in arms or concerned about SROs. One, because they don't fully understand the role, but also as the county has become sort of a majority-minority county, many of us as parents have come from communities, have come from school systems that were over-policed. I shared before the podcast, I'm originally from New York. My last 2 years in high school, high school got like $1 million in security equipment, where we walked through metal detectors, we put our bags on conveyor belts, we were wanded down, and to me, I thought that's what every high school student went through. That was their experience. And it wasn't until college that I realized that, oh no, that was just your school.
Yeah.
That's not every high school in the country.
Right.
Absolutely don't want that here. But I think it's bringing the message again to the people to explain this is specifically what's in the MOU between the sheriff's office and the school system. This is what our officers are tasked to do. Recognizing that these officers are not just individuals sort of moonlighting they're not detectives looking for overtime. They're not, people from the tech unit or SVU sort of looking for overtime. Like these are specific officers sort of hired and trained sort of for this position. But again, bringing it to the people and hearing one-on-one what their concerns are, and if there need to be some modifications on how we sort of use our SROs in the school, that the sheriff's office and Dr. Navarro take that back for consideration, but also explaining again what the role is. Okay. So first year, public safety forum. That's one. The second is currently we don't have a transition process for our students with disabilities. So what I mean by transition process is when a student who has an IEP or a 504 is transferring from elementary school to middle school, or from middle school to high school, or from high school to either college, to the workforce, there is no plan to support that child transitioning to that next grade,
right,
or that next school. Yes, you have a meeting with your IEP team, but in terms of actually taking those students to the next school to say, hey, this school looks different than what you're accustomed to. So prime example, going from elementary school to middle, you have 2 floors. Currently, I don't think any of our elementary schools have 2 floors except for Billingsley, which I think is a newer building. So it's loud. There's lockers. Elementary school kids have never seen lockers. So it's making sure that you're setting up these kids who have, different needs with success come day one. And so the idea is that they have some type of field trip before they transition to that school, after testing is done around the May, June timeframe, giving them an opportunity to fully see the school so they're prepared after the summer to come into that school, no anxiety or low anxiety, but ready. That would be my second point. I want to create a strategy to engage families. I know that the superintendent recently created a new position, or the board allowed a new position to be created, and the superintendent, I believe, has already filled it for a parent engagement liaison.
Okay.
back under Dr. Hill, there was something called the Parent Advisory Council, which I also served on when my kids were in elementary school. And essentially, it's a parent from every school that attends meetings with the board and with the superintendent to kind of go through any major issues that are upcoming or have passed, or voting that's coming up, issues that are on the docket, so that that person can take it back, or that parent can take it back to their local school to share with the PTO. I would also love to reinstitute the Communications Advisory Council, another council that I served on. My kids were in elementary school. But that was, and I understand that, Dr. Navarro came in the midst of a pandemic, and so we haven't been able to have a lot of those forums, but I would love to have a conversation to reinstitute those. I think the communications team at the public school has done great work. They revitalized the website. They're doing more social media push, but we need more. We need more. So I would say those are the top three. Yeah. In addition to looking at, the blueprint is obviously going to require some growth. So I'd love to dig into budget-wise, what does that mean? So I know that Dr. Navarro has already kind of laid those numbers out. She's talked to the current board, the current sitting board. But definitely within my first year, I'd like to wrap my mind more around, like, what are the outgrowths and what are the costs that would then come to the county as a result of implementing the blueprint.
Okay. I want to get more into blueprint too as well as we go on, because I know it's definitely part of your website too. So Dev, Dev. I'm used to Dev being here so long.
That's Jay Honeyman.
It's so funny. It's so funny because I just saw Leftwich's
that's
comment.
my guy. Oh, Dev got Michael Jackson. I was reading that too. I was looking at that one.
I wasn't laughing when you were speaking. I looked down and saw that.
Oh
comment.
my God!
That's why I started laughing.
Goddamn Leftwich.
So it wasn't about what you were saying.
Now
I didn't want you to think I was laughing.
Kanye West playing in my head.
Yeah, that's funny.
So there's two questions here. Well, actually, no, I'm gonna come back to charter schools here in a second for Angela and Pascal. But Amanda, how do you feel about the potential expansion of CTE programs?
I think that makes sense. It depends. Expansion of CTE programs. One, I am data-driven but heart-led. So I believe that all of our kids need opportunity. But I would want to explore the current programs that we have and get a sense of, are they not working? Are they under-resourced? Are they in subject areas or areas that students are just not interested in, and therefore we need additional CTE programs? If there is demand, I say we meet it. But I also want to make sure that we're not creating a program in which we only have, one or two or a handful of students who are interested when it's intended for a larger number. Just make sure that we're spending our money wisely. But I think we have a very robust business community here in Charles County. Those are one of the things that we're very fortunate to have in our community. So in terms of CTE, why can't we partner with the Chamber of Commerce? So not to say that the school system has to create it ourselves, but if we have partnerships with these businesses, why couldn't they offer apprenticeships? Why couldn't they offer student hours or, weekend hours or whatever it may be? If they're vetted by the school system and they're allowed to engage with students, they've passed the background check just like every other volunteer in the school system. I know that opens a can of worms. But if they've passed the background check and they are labeled as an individual who can interact with our students, then why couldn't they set up apprenticeships or opportunities for our kids?
Look, I'm going to say it once. I'm going to say it till people stop hearing me or whatever, or finally next. Hey, look, BNY is hiring. Hey, look, get us verified here, through the school board. And hey, I have no problem with having the kid learn some audio visual. I got a lot to teach, a lot I know here, so definitely looking to pass off that knowledge. But Chamber of Commerce, hey, BNY, we're a LLC.
There we go.
Yeah. So absolutely.
I just mentioned that as the hub.
Hey, I'm all for giving back to the kids.
Again, we have entrepreneurs here, we have engineers here, we have aviators here. Like, Charles County is rich with very well connected and thoughtful and intelligent individuals who are interested in giving back. This is their home. Why wouldn't they be interested in the school system? Why wouldn't they be interested in ensuring that the next generation has the tools they need to be successful? So I think we just need to find a way that these folks can engage with the school system.
There's a couple comments that's on track with that too as well. Tammy, maybe put more emphasis on the trades in the CTE program too as well.
Okay.
Let students know they have a great career in a trade. They don't necessarily need to go to college. I'm all for that.
So Tammy, I'll say it. I'm for college and career. I think our kids, the Davis had College Day, where they asked, college students and alumni to come back and kind of just talk to the kids, just showing them that, what does college look like once you get there? My first question to the kids, just to get them interested, was, who likes to eat? Obviously, all hands. Who eventually wants to move out? All hands. Who would like a vehicle at some point? All hands. Then obviously you all want to be either college or career minded when you graduate from high school. So in terms of career, that means that you're actually going to get a higher degree. You're going to get a certification in a skill. So it's not, if you leave high school, I know we have a wonderful welding program that essentially you leave high school with credentials already. You already are credentials kind of go directly into the welding field. But for those programs where you may need some additional schooling beyond high school, let's make sure that the kids understand that. So I'm all for whether or not your path is to college, or whether or not your path is into a trade. But just ensuring that trade, that they are credentialed when they're ready to enter into that trade.
All right. Angela and Julie, let's see. Kind of the same question here. Do you think having a traditional vote tech would serve the students better than North Point alone? Or do you even support vocational programs? I'm just kind of throwing both together.
No, I do support vocational programs. I do. I think, as we were talking about earlier, it's similar to my comment around college and career. I think it's ensuring that kids are prepared for either, whatever their choice may be. I grew up in a family where college was just where you went after high school. Mm-hmm. It wasn't special. It wasn't some glorious place. Elementary school, middle school, and then you went to college, whatever that may have been, whether it was a 2-year, whether it was a 4, and that was just my experience. But I know that there are students who, their families may feel, I have more to offer right now, so I'd like to go into a trade, or I'd like to be a chef, or I already know sort of what my niche is or what my gift is to the world, and I'm ready to enter into that field now. I support that completely. But again, it's making sure that they are credentialed and they are ready. I would hate for, any of our students to leave high school and not be prepared for the world as it currently stands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, give as much to it as you possibly can. Send them out there, and hopefully they make something good of themselves. Mm-hmm. What do you think? AJ?
I'm reading through the comments still, trying to make sure you're staying up.
Oh.
Angela asks, "What do you think your opinion on the current situation with the bus drivers?"
Current situation on the bus drivers. So as I understand it, one of the bus driver companies recently closed. And so obviously they laid off a lot of their workers. And so from what I understand is that, and I could be wrong, so someone please correct me if there's some additional information. From what I understand, they're going to have to, Charles County Public School can absorb them, but they'll have to apply for their positions.
Yep, they got to reapply for their positions again.
Right. So what I think is, perhaps there's a way for them to receive some preference in that application. That's what I would support.
Yeah, it's that's just, I hate to say it, but it's capitalism, A business made a decision, and that was that. It sucks to see what happened with it, and they have to kind of reapply with everything too as well, but is it, and again, someone please correct me, from what I understand, is it reapply?
If they apply to work with that contractor and the contractor had a contract with the contractor had a contract with the Department of Education, the school system, then the employees work directly for the contractor. Do they work directly for the school system?
But
Wouldn't they be new employees to the school system?
I know they'd apply for their positions again. That's why I understood it.
And I think I understand it the same way.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is that they can be offered preference. Because I don't know. Are all the positions being retained?
That I'm not sure. I haven't talked to them myself. This is what I've heard secondhand.
Same. So I would like to understand the situation better before I completely, pass judgment on it. My heart goes out to anyone that was laid off.
Of course.
We all have families, we all have bills, we all have livelihoods, homes to pay for, rent to pay. So my heart goes out to anyone that's been laid off. Hopefully they're able to expedite the process and it's not as painful as it currently sounds. Hopefully the application process truly is just a process and it can go pretty quickly. And these folks can, get rehired, get paychecks flowing again. That's my hope. But I would need to look more closely into the situation to figure out this application process and whether or not it's a 1-for-1. So if 20 have been laid off, are there 20 positions or are there just 10?
And that's
what I would need to understand.
Yeah, as far as the numbers of that one, I don't have that data, so I'm not entirely sure. But that's something I do plan on finding out here soon. So.
No, please, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Whatever I find, I'll definitely share with the public.
And I see Nicole Kramer's comment. They worked for the contractor. Thanks for that clarification, Nicole.
Yeah, and Laura, I think they need to apply for a new contractor who's taking over those routes. So we'll see how that whole thing plays out. But the bus drivers obviously very important to the community of Charles County. Like I said, we had them on here, and they were fantastic, with their platform. So hopefully, anything that we can do for them to help in the situation, we'll be able to help.
Just
aid
a few
them in
more
the way
words
we can.
On
Please.
Bus drivers. They're essential workers. We saw that during the pandemic. They are essential workers, hands down. Mr. Stokes, our bus driver, drove for us. Excuse me, I'm not getting choked up, I promise. Mr. Stokes drove for us for a number of years. And now that my kids are transferring,
really?
yeah, now my twins are going into middle school. He drove my eldest all through elementary school, and then the twins all through elementary school. And now that my youngest two are transitioning to middle school, they'll have a different driver. So it definitely was bittersweet on the last day of school, in terms of giving him a gift. And even he was choked up. He was like, no, this is the hardest part. I'm like, absolutely. Like, we've known you for what feels like forever. So to see what they're going through currently, it's heart-wrenching. And I truly, my heart goes out to them, and I wish them the best. But I will be looking into this a bit more closely.
For sure. What's your thoughts on charter schools?
Charter schools, I think it's a part of parent choice. We
can go on that too as well.
So I'm invested in public schools, but I think parents have the right to choose where their child goes to school, whether it's being homeschooled, whether it's in the public school system, whether it's a school that teaches their kids differently. I think different kids need different things. I know recently the board did approve one charter school, the application for one charter school. They're currently, I believe, still looking for space, last I heard. But I think it's something to be sort of looked into if it fits within the culture and the fabric of who we are as Charles County. If they're bringing something new and innovative, as a superintendent and the board sort of look at applications, whether or not it's aligned, all the pieces that we have to look at. I think it'd be an interesting idea going forward.
And your thoughts on school choice?
All for it. I think parents should have choice. They currently do have choice. You choose to homeschool your child. You can choose to enter your child into the public school system. I mean, either way, your child has to be educated. But where you choose to have them educated is completely up to you. The same thing we offer when kids get to high school, where they get to select into a program and they get to interview for programs. So it doesn't just say, okay, well, you're zoned for this one school. This is where you will go. If there's a program that really interests you and you'd like to apply for it and interview for it, you have the option of going to that school if selected.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that you can, if you write I'm not sure you write the letter to me, Board of Education, that if you, I'm not sure. I'm just throwing it out there now. But if you can provide your own transportation, you can pretty much take your kid to any school that they want to go to in the county. Do you know anything about that, or if that's true? I'm
not certain. I haven't heard that. Not to say that it's not true, but I haven't heard that. That's something I would have to look into.
Somebody clean it up for me if I know about that. After school programs, Mr. Leftwich, do you support adding them?
I'm sorry, I'm just writing down this note. Remember, you don't make promises you don't intend to keep.
Nah, you're fine. You're fine. Go ahead. You are absolutely fine.
So Mr. Leftwich said what?
After school programs, do you support adding them?
Absolutely. I think that enriches schools. That's before and after school programs. Absolutely. I know we currently have, some issues more so in the western part of the county. Again, I mentioned that District 2 is sort of one of the larger districts. So there may be fewer families, but they're further spread out from their local school. So in terms of having after school programs, can they pick up their child? Given the distance, given sort of where they may be in the evening. I know we sort of no longer have activity buses. I mean, there have been conversations about how do we bring them back? What could that look like? I absolutely would support activity buses. I think after school programs are enriching. My kids participated in, 2 teachers at Diggs. Mrs. Proctor and I'm forgetting the other science teacher. They started a program called Growing Green, where essentially they were teaching the kids horticulture. So how do you garden? How do you plant? How do you grow your own food? What's the life cycle of a plant? So essentially taking the components of STEM and agriculture and allowing kids to see it up close and personal at a young age. It was after school, and it was amazing. But again, I know that I'm a parent where I was able to pick them up after hours. You know, I could make that commitment. I can leave work a little early and come get them from the school. They did, my oldest did Destination Imagination for a number of years. So I fully support after-school programs. I think it's a way of enriching what's already happening in the schools. I think it's a way of taking the theory of what's being learned in school, and some of the application, absolutely, but being able to apply it hands-on. I think it's socially interacting. There's so many benefits. So yes, Mr. Leftwich, I absolutely support after-school programs.
Hey, look, anything that keeps the kids busy, I'm all for. So Leftwich had a follow-up question. Yeah, absolutely. So how do we go about implementing that? And there's a couple questions here about activity buses too as well.
Yes, I saw that. Yes, Angela, I see your question.
And also, I guess, what do we add? That's a little three layer for you. But go on, please.
No, so I think one of the conversations starts between the board and the superintendent to say there's a demand, there's an interest in additional activities. What can we do? Like, what does it take? Is it additional funding? Is it additional, obviously we would have to pay teachers a decent, sort of stipend to be able to do this. I mean, this is time they're taking away from their families, taking away from their evening activities to support kids after school. But finding ways of figuring out, what do we have to do? Is it money? Is it resources? Is it personnel? And then what can we do as a board and as a school system to support it and continue to incentivize it? Dr. Navarro obviously has sort of domain over the principals. So figuring out which school communities want what, and then what it would take financially and what it would take policy-wise, from the board to support it. So hopefully that answers your follow-up question. In terms of activity buses, you're right. No, we don't have them. It's my understanding that we used to have them, but we don't have them. I'm not certain if that was a result of the pandemic or the budget. I'm not certain. But I think we certainly should have them. But to be clear, we would need to have the buses in places that need the buses. So there are certain communities that may not need after-school buses. Again, there are, parents who have the means to be able to come and pick up their children. They have the flexibility. So in terms of looking at it from an equity lens, there are certain schools that may need the activity buses more than other schools. So wanting to ensure that we're meeting those schools and those communities where they are and providing the supports they need, and not just blanket providing resources across the county. So that's what I would support.
Okay. And also, activity buses, Leftwich could add to the bus driver salaries. I'm not. I mean.
Well, it wouldn't be all. Well.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that. Well, I know they're going through a new contract and all that. I'm not sure how that all will work, but in theory, yes. In theory, yes.
But it wouldn't be all. So.
Yeah.
If it's certain, perhaps it's a stipend that's paid to those who are interested, similar to a teacher. Teachers step up and say, okay, I'm willing to do the art club or the STEM club, or, I'll support the chess club for whatever the stipend happens to be, or the additional hours, or whatever the additional supports or resources that they would receive to invest that time.
Right.
I presume it may be the same for the bus drivers.
And that's what kind of Mr. Earl said when we did this podcast too as well. He had mentioned that. But I don't know how it'll work going forward with all the changes. So hopefully, we'll see. But extra work, I would like individuals to get paid for it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Nope, it's not other duties that's assigned.
Yeah, there you go. Come on now. Angela, good. This is a question I wanted to bring up too as well. All right, so GPA requirements for sports and also extracurricular activities. What's your thoughts? What should be what do you think about lowering the GPA for it? I think yesterday it was mentioned at 2.25. What do you think about lowering it that, or do you think it's just fine keeping it the way it is?
So I think that's a multi-part answer.
Okay.
So one, I'm not for lowering the bar for our students, but I do acknowledge that, again, we are still in the midst of a pandemic. We're still coming out of a pandemic. I don't think it's the time to begin to backslide and lose the focus on the high standard that we've set for all students. But again, I understand that we are still in a pandemic, and there are kids who have struggled. There are parents who have been unable to keep track of all the homework, all the assignments, and they haven't necessarily been able to support their child in the way they did prior to the pandemic. I understand all of that. So what I would support is a sliding scale. If we said we're willing to drop the GPA to 2.2, 2.3 for the first 2 or 3 quarters of the next school year, to allow them to catch up, not even the first 2 quarters of the school year, to allow them to catch up. So now they've been in person for a year. We're going into our second year being in person fully. So now it's an opportunity for them to get back to the 2.5 bar that's always been. Excuse me.
Wait, what the GPA right now is at 2.25. The lowest, the lowest you can go is 2.25.
That's because it was just lowered from 2.5 to 2.25. Is that correct or no?
I just know it's at 2.25. My kid's working, completed, and developing as far as grades. So it's just
That's the elementary school report card. Yes.
They say 2.25, so that's what I'm rocking with. But regardless, though, do you agree with the slide? You say you want a sliding scale, or would you lower it completely?
I mean, 2.25. I mean, that's a. I mean, 2.25. Okay.
So here's what I want to propose.
So
right here.
go ahead.
Yeah, this is what I'm considering. So 2.25. The kid's obviously not doing that great in school. It's not a great GPA. All right, they say they get a 2.1. They can't do any extracurricular activities, sports, any of that. What is the plan for the child at that point to actually improve the GPA?
So this is what I will say. This is so fitting with the blueprint, because in the blueprint it requires districts to report ninth grade. I'm not sure if it's ninth grade test scores. I'm not sure the right word.
Thank you, Laura.
Ninth grade grades, ninth grade achievement, essentially. They're required to report to the state ninth grade achievement under the blueprint. Mm-hmm. But they're also required to have a plan in place for those students who are falling behind. Mm-hmm. Almost like an early warning system, so that you don't let these kids get all the way through 11th, almost to 12th grade, and realize, okay, you're failing everything. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like an early warning system in ninth grade. So if we're looking at a student with a 2.1 GPA, there should have been supports. And we're not talking sports, we're not talking extracurricular activity, we're talking just academics. There absolutely should be a support system in place. There should be some, meeting with the parents, engaging the families. And I understand that, families have a lot going on, especially nowadays, but trying to figure out, what does the student need? What seems to be the disconnect? What can be done? And again, that's outside of sports, that's outside of extracurricular activities. That's just saying, we want you to be a productive member of society when you leave high school, whether your path is to go on to college, your path is to go on to career. Mm-hmm. If you would like sports and extracurriculars to be a part of that, then let's help you get these grades back up. I think that's also an incentive to help them get their grades back up. But ultimately, I would support a sliding scale for next school year for the first 1 or 2 quarters, mm-hmm. as they catch up to what the floor is.
Okay, so slide scale as far as like forgiveness, or like explain it just a little bit more for me.
So a sliding scale in that you would let them play up until third quarter.
So yeah,
if
so
by
first
third
and second
quarter
quarters,
you're not able to meet the bar,
right?
We've given you half the school year.
And that's starting off every school year, or just ninth grade?
I think just this year, this year upcoming.
Okay.
Because I think the understanding is that it's because of the pandemic. From what I'm understanding, mm-hmm. is that a lot of kids, their grades are off from where they typically are because of the pandemic. So the idea is, now that we are almost 2 years back in person, so starting next year, perhaps having a sliding scale, first 2 quarters. Mm-hmm. Whatever your GPA is, if it's not at the bar, we'll still let you play. But the understanding and the supports we provide you to get back to a 2.25, we're going to help you sort of ratchet it back up. You've got to scaffold back up to where you're supposed to be.
Yeah. So the thing is that, hell, you can make it 3.0 as long as there's a plan in place to get the kid back to where they need to be.
Absolutely.
A legitimate plan.
Absolutely.
So, and you're saying forgiveness for and it wasn't great before the pandemic either, as far as academics in Charles County. But
I've seen somebody had posted it actually used to be 2.0, and then in 2014 administration changed it to 2.25.
Shout out to Derek Terry. How you doing today?
Appreciate that.
Derek Terry just came in from cutting his grass at the gym. I think that's what he said. With his son. That's what he was. Yeah. Let's get some of these comments too as well, because there's a mixed bag on this. Let me eat with my. Hey, Leftwich, you. I see that comment about the flight. The flight. No, the arm one was funny. I'm looking at the flight one. This man is a gem in the BNY community. Let me keep it going. Let me keep going up. This is what I want to touch at. Laura Kelly, this is a go circle. We lost activity buses several years ago due to budget issues. It was one of the programs that were eliminated to avoid cutting teacher positions. Mm-hmm. Laura, I'd like to talk to you on the side too as well. I want to get some more information from you just to grow my knowledge base too. Thank you, Laura, as always in the BNY chat. All right. All right. Pascal, people want to lower our standards to 2.0 at the worst time. The worst time. Explain a little bit of that, Pascal. I'm just curious. Is that coming out of the pandemic? Is that what you're referring to? Let's see. Amanda, I see your question about reinstatement policy. We'll get to that too as well. I want to keep going with this. Angela, I don't agree with the sliding scale. All right. Also has a very low bar. That's the problem. Obviously, Derek Terry's comment was made right there. I'm looking at left, which this man is on one tonight. Julie Lee, 2.25 is low enough.
I think that's why I was confused. I thought it was 2.5 and then we lowered it to 2.25, but it seems as if it was originally 2.0 and we increased it to 2.25. And now there are folks in the community saying that it's too high for some students.
I'd like to know how many kids aren't making that and how many are being cut out of that. I know there's some numbers as far as that goes. I think that's a great
question.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, too, is that carried over from like 8th grade going into 9th grade? I thought every year started with a clean slate, like you started with 0.
No, that's a great question. I'm not sure if this...
Well,
because I guess the way I was understanding in the comments is it's carried over. I'm not for sure.
So your GPA coming out of middle school would inform if you could play anything.
Correct. That's what I was understanding. I don't know if that's how it is, but from the comments, that's what they were saying.
Let's clean it up a little bit. Comment section. Tell me what you got. I want to read this Pascal comment to keep this moving. We should offer a clean slate in the 9th grade. Then we should allow students who are below 2.25 to participate in extracurricular activities under an academic probation program that gives them tutoring, peer-to-peer support, and mentorship to ensure they are back up to 2.25 and above by the end of the first semester. We can't just lower the bar. Honestly, Pascal, I think that's a fantastic idea. Because so
that was the comment too. I was trying to understand.
Yeah, the transition going to from
middle to high.
Yeah, it's a culture shock.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't my first year, 9th grade. It was not great at all, but I was able to improve from there. It wasn't good. But it was a lot going on there. But there's a lot of students that were like me too as well. Right. So I would give them the chance to at least get their feet wet and then go from there. Also, a big thing with me is that I went from private to public, so it was like a complete culture shock from going from 8th to 9th grade.
Oh, absolutely. I think anytime you have one of those major transitions, going from 5th to 6th, middle school, going from 8th to 9th, it's a whole new world. You're a small fish in a big pond. There are new rules, new teachers. There's a lot going on. So I absolutely understand it. And I think, I do appreciate Pascal's response. But I like the focus on peer-to-peer support, sort of some type of academic probation. I mean, the goal of the school system is to educate. We want to ensure that we're exposing our kids to as many things as possible in terms of, the arts was mentioned earlier, after-school programs, sports, allowing them to activate both their mind and their body. Absolutely. But if what you're showing academically is that you need more intensive focus on just schooling, I think I can't think of the word I'm thinking about right now, but perhaps it's not in our best interest to introduce all these sports and after school activities if the child is struggling academically. If they're showing it's difficult for me to go home and just do my homework and really focus and understand all these readings. But then on top of that, now I have practice. On top of that, now I'm going to this after school thing. On top of that, I'm going to, these events on the weekend that's related to my after school activity. You're going to diminish their ability to actually get through their studies.
Absolutely.
Further harming them. So...
And I said, as long as there's a plan in place to help the student out with that. Now, I'm not sure exactly how extensive that'll look, or as far as the after hours. I know there's tutoring programs too as well. So hopefully, I don't know. I would like to get a little more data on that to see exactly how that's working out too as well. See how effective that is. And
just one more quick point on that. I think our students are resilient.
Yeah.
I don't want to come with a deficit mindset that it's, they have to be, for lack of a better word, coddled. And that we're going to continue to lower the bar to the point where we have no academics. So I think our students are strong, they're resilient, they're resourceful. If you want to play, play whatever sport it is, not play, but if you want to play whatever sport you're invested in, if you want to be engaged in whatever, after school activity has sort of, caught your interest, you got to put in the work. And that's even as adults, we have to put in the work. So I think what lessons are we teaching if it's, we're going to continue to release and relax the regulations and the structure that's been put in place for you to be the best student you can. I think it sends the wrong message.
I agree with that too as well. I'm not going to sit there and argue that. Comments, smart athletes are better athletes, and I see Leftwich with his sports programs for his tutoring time as well. But not just with them. I know sports they have their own, their own privilege too as well. But as far as students as a whole, even those that just do extracurricular activities are struggling. I want to get to something else here too as well. Actually, Leftwich has a pretty interesting segment. Hey, question, AJ, do a mic check for me.
Yeah. 1 2 1 2 1 2. You should be able to hear it in the headphones.
Yeah, just make sure everybody can hear AJ before we move on from there. You should be good to go.
I saw that too. I texted you actually.
Yeah.
Try to make it not
not as obvious
on air
It goes off all the time during the podcast. I check him when I can. So we can hear him good. All right, so Leftwich asks, were you bullied? So the thing with me, no more than an average kid, but I'm gonna go into something here too as well. This comment is a good segue.
Okay.
The big thing with me is that when I went to high school, I went from like a private school. It was maybe like 13 kids in the class to like 30, 35, and I've got to go from one point of a school all the way to the other half. And I got to, find a classroom all over the place. So the culture shock of all that is kind of like what I mean. What did Derek Terry say here? I think he said 8th grade. They come with a clean slate, but the second quarter is done. But the bullying part, I want to get back to what Leftwich said, and that's not about me. We'll make it about Charles County. What's your thoughts on bullying here in this county in schools? Obviously, this is an America problem, school-wide problem across the country. But just curious your thoughts. And then I'm going to go into something else too as well.
Oh, I'm not for it.
Okay.
As I've mentioned, I mean,
I would assume so.
not for it. I've mentioned before, I have children in the school system. I have a vested interest in ensuring that kids are treated properly by both, educators, administrators, and especially their peers. And it's tough. I mean, it's tough navigating social situations. It's tough. I'm totally here for social emotional learning and ensuring that, our administrators have professional development and supports to understand how to implement, social emotional learning practices into their curriculum, into their teaching practices. Also having peer-to-peer mediation, having opportunities. I mean, I know that, and I know I keep going back to Diggs and Davis, but those are sort of my most intimate experiences. Right. But at Diggs, they have lunch bunch. I'm not sure what they do in the middle school or the high schools. That might get a little odd. But lunch bunch essentially is, they bring kids together to have lunch together. Even though it's lunch in a large group, but they kind of create smaller social groups for lunch settings. And it's, different kids with different abilities. So you may be sitting with someone who, of course the kids don't know, but someone who's on the autism spectrum. You may be sitting with someone who has a physical disability. Right. Or, kids who are neurotypical. It's just a small cluster of kids, and that administrator or that special education teacher is just sort of leading conversation. Hey, how was your weekend? They start a discussion. Oh, did you hear what she said about her weekend? Why don't you ask her about just creating social, small group interactions in hopes that you can create friends. I mean, the same thing I talked about, that transition plan for students with disabilities going from elementary to middle and middle to high. I think having them in the school to kind of see it live and in person, live and in color. Also creating small forums where they can meet other students, before they physically get there. So at least they have one or two familiar faces that they saw in this smaller group. But ultimately for bullying, I don't stand for it at all. And I think there needs to be, conversations with the family in terms of the repercussions. We've seen sort of it play out in other places in the country, sort of what it leads to, what it could lead to. And we definitely don't want that here. So just ensuring that we're creating forums for kids to, again, have that peer-to-peer mediation, peer-to-peer interaction, but also bringing the families into it.
Yeah, and I've said this to almost every board member that's been on here. I mean, I would love to be more involved with my school, with my kids' school, in one way or fashion. Obviously, between the podcast and me coaching too as well. Right. That takes a lot of time away, but anything to involve more so, to be involved with the kids. I know one thing that my kids' elementary school did. Obviously, the pandemic kind of killed like that. Was like donuts with dad or muffins with mom. Just having you in the school. I wish they would do that a lot more. I wish there was something weekly there that I could just be in the school. I mean, give me an excuse to, get bounce for a couple hours. I'm gonna take it, but obviously I'm spend it productive with the kids. There's one thing one thing there too as well, when I was with my son at these events, is that it's not just him I'm dealing with one-on-one. It's like 6-7 other kids I'm talking to as well.
Right.
So it definitely helps out as far as, I think, just getting together and seeing the adult figure. Yeah, gauge, and you can see certain things, and someone to make fun of somebody, I can stop that on the spot too as well.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so I do agree with more community engagement, getting students together more, and we'll see where that goes. Amanda, we love muffins from Mom at Craig. See, Amanda knows. Shout out to District 2.
Absolutely, Amanda.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, I think for students, for other kids to see that kid who perhaps is, different or quirky, or, the kid that everyone sort of picks on for whatever reason it may be, they have a village. Like, they have a home system, they have neighbors, they have friends, they have people who are behind them in their corner. So whether or not you're able to go to, again, a PTA meeting, field trips, any opportunity where you have to kind of be with your child and to your point, be able to stop other kids like, no, that's not right. We're not going to do that. Nope, that's not what you say. We're not going to do that. Just for other kids to see, like, okay, this is not cool. Like, this gentleman is not dealing with it. He's got this kid's back. I'm going to go ahead and, back off.
Yeah, or even talking to kids that normally, like, sit at a table that my son wouldn't know, but I'm sitting next to him, so I'm talking to him. Next thing you know, they're talking, so
exactly.
They become friends. It's things like that. More community involvement, I'm all for.
I'm here with it. I'm with it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We think on that, AJ.
Nah, I agree. It takes a village to raise, children in general, like you were saying. So, I did the donuts with Dad before, stuff like that, and even for me, right? I like to be able to see, like you said, like the kids that people think are dorky or quirky, whatever. I would rather like to be the one to interact, to show my kids that, hey,
absolutely,
they're okay. Like, we had, like, where I come from, I'm actually from Illinois, so I think I put that out there. We had a lot of kids like that where I'm from, and I would always be the one to interact with them, just to kind of bridge the gap. I think there's definitely like a gap of the social distancing being an issue now with the pandemic. Yeah, community involvement for sure. Even me, I probably need to get a little more involved. But I know at the school my kids go to, we're not even allowed into school. Parents aren't allowed in at all right now. So,
yeah, that's unfortunate. But I know next year schools will be day one to be open.
100%, yeah. 100%.
So I want to read this comment too as well. I'm actually read a bunch of comments, and I want to go into your website platform too as well. AJ, would you mind dropping Jamila's website in the chat? And then we have the people follow along with us too as well. All right, so
while Derek, he drops it, I'll just go ahead and say it. It's JamilaSmith.com. Real simple.
Oh, yeah. JamilaSmith.com. There it is. And we'll drop it too. Just set for that hyperlink. Okay. People, I won't click on it if you tell me, but if you drop a hyperlink, I'll check it out. So
very true.
I'm the same way.
Sake, for convenience.
I'm speaking for myself, by the way.
Meet the people where they are.
Oh, that's right. You're a Facebook user that's been out here terrorizing my podcast for the past couple
I was not terrorizing. I was simply stating comments on my beliefs.
All right, Derek Terry, there's a policy already in place to address all forms of bullying. I'm going to tell you a story about that in a second. The issue is enforcement. Most of the schools don't want to be labeled. This would give the school a bad rating, will carry over to the school system, school politics, be ready. So we had an issue a couple years ago with my son as far as bullying too as well. And we worked through the proper channels, had to go through the school, then we had to go to Charles County, the website, had to fill out the form, wait X amount of hours, I think maybe like 24 to 72, somewhere between there. And then eventually, nothing really came of it. So there is a policy there. What Derek is right, there is like a form in place that you can go through, but the enforcement of it is, he's right too as well. Like a lot of these schools, they don't want that issue to be shown. It's really really unfortunate because our issue never got resolved. The student ended up leaving the school on their own fruition through their family. I think they moved or something like that. So that's how that situation was resolved. And there's other issues too as well that when as podcast pops up, maybe today or as they go with other board members, we'll go from there. But that's just one thing I have. So just to his comment.
So thank you for sharing your story, and thanks, Derek, for laying that out. I think that's something to look into. And I think that goes back to like having the school system again bring the message to the people. Like I know we have board meetings that are in one place, but finding ways. I mean, I would actually ask that every voter hold their elected official, whoever gets into office, hold their elected official accountable for having meetings back within their home district. One of the things I'd like to commit to is, I would say quarterly, being able to come back and share with my specific district, hey, this is what's on the docket. These are things we're discussing. Of course, things that are public information. There will be things that are only, the board and the superintendent can be privy to just for privacy reasons. But for the things that are public information, being able to bring it back to your district to say, this is what's happening. Like, these are things that are going on. And just break it down for people. I think that's what people want. I may not have the time to show up midday or later in the afternoon, be able to look online and figure out, okay, they have an open session. Okay, now they're going into a closed session. What if I work at Giant? What if I work at Chick-fil-A? What if I work at Chipotle? Like, I don't have that luxury of being able just to chime in and watch a board meeting while I'm trying to work. So I think there's a way of being able to meet the people where they are and share what's happening. And I think, to Derek's point, that's where you can hear from them what their perception is. Their story, their individual stories around bullying, and what they're feeling around the policy and how they're having to wait 72 hours, and they're concerned that their school doesn't want to be sort of labeled, which is why it's not being reported. These are things that we're required to look into if we're on the board. So either if constituents don't feel comfortable bringing it to kind of an open forum board meeting, then I would challenge every elected official to have not just school board, every elected official to have meetings back within their home district. I keep hitting this mic, sorry. Back within their home district. I'm like, back within their home districts. So again, bring the message to the people and make it clear for them sort of what's at stake and what's going on.
Okay. Julie, so I want to read this comment too as well. And then I finally want to get to what I want to get to for some time, but comments are good. I like definitely like interaction with the guests and the public.
Trying to bring it back to the people.
Hey, come on now.
There we go. All right, so yeah, you can take that one if you want.
Nah. Copyrighted. You get a quarter every time I say it.
I love it. Let's do it. Residual income.
Hey, come on now. Yeah.
Passive income. I'm all for it.
Hey, retract that from the record. All right. Julie. Unfortunately, you have parents who would defend their child who was doing the bullying. Of course, parents. Oh no, not my baby. They didn't do that. We should give more attention to kids that are being kind and helpful, and point attention to the kids that are trying to do good. Those are constantly causing problems. So that one's getting all the attention. That is very true. Angela got to go. I know Leftwich had to go too as well. Angela Leftwich, thank you very much for everything you do here as far as the comment section. And Angela, I'll send you that paperwork too as well. Just give me some time after the podcast and I got you.
Yeah. Just to go back to Julie's comment for a second in terms of being able to reward kids that are doing the right thing. I mean, some schools do have, I believe all the schools in the county should have like a PBIS program where they are rewarding good behavior. Whether or not it's, again, going back to my most intimate experience, at my kids' elementary school, whether it's, Hawks Bucks, where they're giving out, little dollars or little, tokens where kids can buy something from the PBIS store, whether it's a bouncy ball or a stuffed hawk or whatever it be. So, kids kind of amass these Hawks Bucks and they get recognized for doing the right thing, walking quietly in the hall, sitting quietly during performances, answering questions in class, being kind to students, helping out a fellow classmate. So they are being recognized for positive behavior, and schools are able to reward them so that these kids can purchase something later on with whatever tokens they amass.
With positive behavior.
Yep.
Yeah.
And obviously, and not to Pascal's point, and Pascal, I want to address something real quick with you too as well. Don't go nowhere. With Pascal's point is that you have a lot of mental health, and you mentioned mental health too as well. I know this is part of your platform as far as getting these kids. So it's layers to it. Like some kids just bad. I mean, straight up, they're just out here just doing some wildness. All right, I get it, but a lot of them, there's some trauma behind there. There is some issues behind that, and we should try our best to actually solve those. Well, we can't solve it, or at least give attention to that. So. I don't want to just say, just bad, get them out of here. Let's see what's going on. But also, good behavior should be rewarded.
Absolutely.
It absolutely should. I'm all for that, Julie. All for that. All right, Pascal. Let me ask you something real quick. All right, this is just a little bit off topic, but I wanted to touch this. I moved to the U.S. in 9th grade, and my husband still makes fun of Pascal from back in the day. It was a super culture shock. I need to find out more of that. You hit me up after the podcast. I'm curious because I asked you
We need
last
some of those
week.
ninth grade pictures.
Yeah, there it is.
We need some of those school pictures.
Because last podcast I asked you about you talk about your time back in college too as well. You keep bringing this up, these little Easter eggs, and I need a backstory off the record. I'm just curious. Let's go into your platform. I want to take a look at your website.
Absolutely.
All right, so you got a couple things here. I'm gonna touch on a few of them, and then you can just talk to it.
Sure.
So you're first of all, by the way, good website's very extensive.
Extensive.
Brought that word again. It's very well put together. Who yeah, come on, I gotta stop saying it. Who created the website? Who built this for you?
So my brother-in-law, he's in IT. Shout out to Lewis IT. He is a LLC, independent-owned business.
Where out of?
He is now based in St. Mary's. They just moved from Bryan's Road to St. Mary's, but he travels.
Okay.
He has clients in Virginia, everywhere. So he travels. So we went through the website together. I gave him all the verbiage, everything I wanted on there, all the language. He helped me organize it. Couldn't figure out colors, so we ended up on my alma mater's colors, gray and white. Shout out to the Hoyas, Georgetown Hoyas.
Hey.
Yeah. But I mean, essentially, it was extensive for a reason. Our county is massive. Our district is massive. And so I wanted to ensure that people at least had a one-stop shop to hear my ideas on a variety of topics, to hear what I stood for, and then to inquire, which I'm so excited that, Jay Honeyman went ahead and dropped that website.
I like it.
People, please, take a look at it. If there are questions, drop them in the chat. I'm here. I'm ready to engage. So what you got?
Yeah, so first of all, what's the name of that business again?
Lewis IT.
Lewis IT, and
You can find it at the
they
bottom
contract
of the
out too
website.
as well. So okay, round of applause one time for Lewis IT too.
Lewis
as well.
IT.
Yeah, our family in Southern Maryland.
It's at the bottom of the website as well. You guys can find all the information.
So your mission for CCPS: effective problem solving, transparent decision making, and clear communication, flexible to the needs of different communities and the dynamics of COVID-19.
Right.
So you want to talk on your mission?
Sure. So in terms of effective, you want to go through that? Sure. Just let me know when you want me to jump in.
Just talk about it as a whole.
Sure. So effective problem solving, I'm down for getting to the root cause. Why is this an issue? I mean, to your point, you spoke about the GPA. How many students are being affected? Like, is this something we need to have a county-wide policy for, or find ways to support those 8 or 9 students who are being impacted? So I want to get down to the root cause and be able to solve it thoughtfully. In terms of transparent communication, just making sure that we are data-led. I shared earlier that I am heart-driven but data-led. I am very invested in the school system, but I want to ensure that the decisions that we make are based in data and they make sense for the community that we have. So that's essentially like a lot of my points in terms of like my vision for CPS, just making sure that there's clear and transparent decision making. I am not naive. I understand that there will be lots of private information that the board is privy to. I understand sort of how to keep things close hold, how to respect people's privacy. So things that are being shared, it won't end up in some large Facebook group somewhere, no shade to anyone in particular. As soon as I said it, I was like, no, don't misconstrue it. Don't take it out of context.
Good luck. I'm just going to laugh and just keep it moving.
We are all on social media, but just to be clear, that things that must be held close hold will be kept so. The things that can be shared publicly, I absolutely want to make a commitment to bringing that, again, back to my district on some cadence where you can bring it to the people.
Okay. Your vision for CCPS. You want to share a quality public education that supports all students academically, socially, and emotionally, prepare all students to be successful in a global society. It's entrenched by a diverse community and natural resources. Okay.
Absolutely.
And is a model of innovative education and operational practices.
Yes.
Sum that up for us.
So there is a richness here in Charles County that we have to continue to tap into. And I want to make sure that we're realizing it. So when I talk about the environmental piece, people were like, environment, like what does that have to do with education? Many of our parents and even community members don't know that we have an environmental center down in Nanjemoy. It's called the Nanjemoy Creek Environmental Center. And it's almost like a rite of passage. Every fifth grader in the county takes a field trip out there. I know why, because I have 2 who were in 5th grade last year. How many times did I go on that field trip? Twice. So, and it's amazing. I mean, it's essentially from 6:30 in the morning to 6 in the evening. It's about a 45-minute drive all the way out to Nanjemoy, and you're there all day. And it's absolutely amazing. The things that these kids get to do, the types of careers that they're exposed to, the information they're exposed to, is absolutely amazing. One of the things that I worked with the board and the superintendent on was there were a number of students, current upcoming 8th graders and upcoming 7th graders, who missed that opportunity because of the pandemic. So she actually opened it up where, again, rising 7th and 8th graders could sign up. I believe it's this summer. There are several sort of weekend programs going on where they're transporting kids, from obviously wherever they are, out to Nanjemoy to have that experience that they missed in 5th grade. So there's a richness here that we can continue to tap into. In terms of academically, socially, and emotionally being able to support students, I think we spoke about that platform all throughout sort of this evening, wanting to ensure that we keep academics center, but recognizing that there's also an emotional and social component as well. In terms of meeting different communities where they are in relation to COVID-19, there are different, again, schools, different parts of the county that are struggling different than some of our schools. So being able to apply an equity lens and offering them more supports than perhaps we would offer other schools. So again, it's not just blanket resources, it's not just blanket sort of spreading money throughout the county, but really finding where those hardest hit areas are and being able to offer specific supports to those specific schools as they need it.
Okay. And as far as your field trip, Tammy's, I went when I was in the 5th grade. It was overnight back then.
I heard that. Tammy, those cabins are interesting looking. So shout out to you for doing that.
Yes.
I don't know if that could have been my life, but shout out to you. It's absolutely a beautiful place.
Yeah.
But overnight, I camped out in my backyard with my son when he was in Boy Scouts. And even then, every rustle, every bit of wind, I just knew it was Bigfoot. So I don't know if I could have done overnight, but shout out to you.
That's going to be an urban legend. The Bigfoot and Nanjemoy. We're going to see if we can tell some tall tales about that one. All right, what can we achieve together? Prioritize student well-being, empower educators, students, and the community to be a part of solutions, harness local business and government resources, create better solutions together. Sum it up for us.
Absolutely. So one of the roles of the board is not only to sort of advise on an established policy, to hold the superintendent accountable, it's also to have relationships with those who hold our purse strings. So having relationships with our commissioners, having relationships with our state delegates, having relationships with our state senator, with our congressmen. It's ensuring that they are not only fully invested, but they understand what the monies have returned. They're understanding sort of the gains that we're making, where we're struggling, where we need more support. So it's not just waiting until around the end of the fiscal year to say, hey, we need more money and here's why. But it's consistently being able to show them, this is what your money is getting for us. This is what taxpayer dollars are investing in. And I would say carrying that same story, not only to those, again, who hold the purse strings, but also the community. Making sure they understand, we've invested in these several STEM programs. This is what we're learning from them. This is where we're seeing gains. These are the metrics that we've aligned with these programs that are showing that we're getting some return, that students are more closely aligned to STEM, they're doing better in school, they're more engaged, whatever the metrics may be. So when I talk about, again, being heart-led but data-driven, that's a part of it as well. Wanting to ensure that we're doing things that are right, but also things that we're able to measure and show proof points for.
Let's get to some of these comments too as well.
Numbers don't lie.
Hey.
Interesting.
Tammy, there's
A wall.
there's a wall between the girl and hey. I ain't going any further. It was interesting. All right, we'll just leave it at that. Pascal, love using our beautiful environment and resources to give our students more life experiences. Good. Absolutely too as well. Nothing more than kids field trips out and about, learning about their own county too as well. It gets no better than that.
Just in terms of, as you're going to the comments, speaking about our resources, the Maryland airport. We have an airport. There are so many counties that would love to have the airport we have. I would love to find a way for students to be able to access it.
Gotta get rid of there's a bunch of lead issues evidently coming out of there.
I mean, we can figure it out, but I'd love to find a way for us to have some type of aviation program, drones, even if it's used for like horticulture and agriculture, being able to water fields with drones and, weather. It's not called weatherology. I'm totally forgetting what it's called.
Meteorology.
Thank you. Please help me out.
Hey. Now you owe me a quarter.
So we're even. We're even. But yes, meteorology. I mean, there's a variety of things. And again, careers and opportunities that we can open our kids up to just because we have the means here in Charles County.
And the people are a fan of that too as well. Lauren, Tammy, I'm looking at the comments. All right, let's get to your focus. So we're about an hour and 40 minutes. You want to say on this podcast? Let's go through your focus. If you have questions as well, drop me here too as well, and then we'll wrap it up from there. Sound good?
Sure, yeah.
All right, sounds good. All right, so your focus, prepare all students for college and careers. I'm going to touch on a few of these, and then I'll let you speak on as we've been doing too as well. Keep ninth grade students on track for success by ensuring the statewide ninth grade on-track data required by the blueprint is actually used to build plans to support every student. Let's touch on that one.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier, so I'm just jotting down some notes to make sure I can hold myself accountable.
You're good.
But the blueprint requires that ninth grade data be shared, ensuring that we're actually using the data here in the county to inform, some decisions. Whether or not there need to be increased funding on tutoring programs, increased supports. I mean, I believe Pascal mentioned the, peer-to-peer, supports and peer-to-peer training and mentoring. But figuring out, like, based on ninth grade data, before it gets too far, before we're looking at kids in 11th and 12th grade who may not be eligible to graduate, before we're looking at kids, sort of dropping out because they feel like there's no light at the end of the tunnel, catching them in the ninth grade to figure out we already have the data, we're required by state law to provide it. What are we doing with it? So that's where I would sort of lean in to make sure that we're using it appropriately.
So once again, the website, jamilasmith.com. Shout out to that domain name just being open to as well. But I'm
IT?
Yeah.
Shameless plug.
Yeah. I'm gonna just take one just for each one because some of these we've already touched on, but
sure.
Ones that we haven't really touched on too much, I'm gonna go from there. And we may touch on it that you can just correct me like, yeah, we could kind of talk about that one. I'll just pick another one. Growing the children's love for reading. We haven't really touched that one too much.
Say that one more time.
Children's love for reading, growing
yes.
that.
Yes.
All right, so I'll read that one. Grow and sustain young children's love for reading and ensure all students see themselves in books through ensuring all school libraries in the county have engaging and cultural relevant texts that reflect to the county students in history and expanding on existing state and local initiatives to ensure all our youngest learners statewide have access to books in their homes.
Absolutely. Yes. I'm very excited about that. So one of the things that our county does, I believe all schools, someone please correct me if all schools don't have it, all elementary schools, is they do Read Across America. So where pre-pandemic, parents can come into the school and be able to pick a book and read to their kid, being able to support that, ensuring that we have a budget to support kids bringing books home. When I was in school, I remember we actually could not bring our books home. Our school system just didn't have enough money, which is surprising because New York City public schools, they have a lot of money. But for some reason, we couldn't bring the books home. We were looking at things about, not to date myself, but Sputnik that had happened
God.
Years before. I'm like, why are we reading about this?
Is anybody even alive in the comment section?
But I mean, that was the point. So ensuring that kids have books that they can bring home, ensuring that they have books where they can see themselves, whether it's, rural settings, it's, children of color, it's children with, diverse, again, neurotypical needs. Mm-hmm. You're able to see a diversity of spectrum. Books where the main character is on the autism spectrum or has Down syndrome or has a physical disability. Books that, again, that are open to everyone to read, regardless of whether you've ever interacted with someone who has a disability. They're able to learn from that one person's experience through books. So that's what I mean, just ensuring that all kids can see themselves in the materials that are being read, ensuring they have a book to go home. I know teachers do an amazing job, making sure that they're, working with parents to ensure, hey, here are some books that we have reading, like they have to read chapters 1 through 5, just making you aware because this is what the expectation is. Again, just finding ways of engaging with our family and also making sure that these kids have books they can go home with.
Read Across America, Read Across Charles County, Laura Kelly. You're looking at multicultural books from Tammy. Looking to expand the book program, more things that look like the people and the residents too as well, and the culture, which is very, very, very important too as well.
But also remember, we're talking about global citizens. So
Right.
it's a sedition, tongue-tied. It's making sure that they're reading books that look like them, but that also represent the world. So you may be reading books about Syria, you may be reading books about Israel, you may be reading books about South Africa, just different worldly and sort of global perspectives that children can all relate to. Kids are kids. So if a child is having an issue in a school in South Africa and they're reading about it, they may be able to relate to that experience. But obviously there is a deep divide, miles wide, ocean wide in terms of, where they live. But being able to recognize, like, I too am going through this, and I live in Charles County, and I'm reading a book about a kid in Israel that's going through something similar. So.
Like connection across Charles County, across borders.
See, look at that. I like that too.
Hey, man. Should have kept that one to myself. Okay, recognize, support, and diversify CCPS educated workforce. Derek, I'm looking at your comment too as well. All right, so it's one of them. Increase the amount of loan forgiveness to teachers working in high need schools who serve the communities with families from low income backgrounds.
Yes, so that's actually a part of the blueprint not requires, but offers incentives for teachers who work in low-performing schools, teachers who work in high-need schools. It offers incentives to nationally board-certified teachers. So there are financial incentives to sort of have our highest quality teachers in some of the lowest performing schools, because we know historically it's been the reverse, where, teachers who have been deemed high quality, who have a series of credentials, tend to go to the either the more affluent schools or the schools that don't necessarily that are higher performing. So just ensuring that we're able to infuse some more of that talent into some of the lower performing schools in hopes of bringing test scores up, in hopes of giving kids more opportunity.
And that's just through education budget.
Absolutely. But that's already included in the blueprint. So
I'm sorry, the blueprint. So yeah, there we go. There's one too as well. I want to ask you about address the county's chronic teacher shortage by establishing incentives that would attract more educators and those preparing to graduate from in-state college or university. What's your idea with that?
So we already know that there's a national teacher shortage. National. It's not just Charles County. The pipeline is drying up. We already know that we don't necessarily have a lot of kids from high school going into college or college graduates coming out saying, I'd like to be an educator. What I would say is that we need to try to find ways of tapping different resources. So I know that we already have relationships with HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities, but do we have relationships with Hispanic serving institutions or tribally controlled colleges and universities? Like, are we tapping those institutions to say, hey, come down to Charles County, this is the draw, this is the allure. You can be successful here. I'm not sure that we've established those types of relationships.
I'm not sure either, but it's an untapped resource. If so, I'm not sure if you have or we haven't, but
that's what I would like to explore.
But at this point, every stone unturned.
Absolutely,
it's something we can do here. Recovering from the pandemic through excellence, innovation, and resilience. One of your ideas here is to expand the CCPS Virtual Academy and ensure greater enrollment flexibility.
Yes. So we had toward the end of the pandemic, I can't even say we're at the end of the pandemic. We're like in the middle. I don't know exactly where we are relative to the pandemic, but
we're just existing.
There was talk of having, there was an application process for kids to be able to apply to continue to remain virtual and sort of not come back in person. There were lots of concerns from parents who were not accepted into the program. So if there's still a need and an interest, now that we're, again, 1 year in of having completely in person, if there's still a demand for parents or students who want to be virtual, and there are some students who learn better virtually. That's their preference, that's their setting, they're academically successful. I would like to find a way of expanding that program, again, if there's demand. If the demand has, decreased, then perhaps that's not a route we go down.
You would as of get rid of the program or just not expand on it?
So the data will tell us, not necessarily get rid of it, but the data will tell us if we need to expand it.
Okay.
Is there still a need? Is there still an interest for more, kids who want to enroll?
I think there always would be some interest in the virtual. Some parents are always going to be interested in it, and it may just work better for their setup too as well. Almost like being homeschooled without being homeschooled in a way. So, I want to get back to some of these comments. Laura Kelly. Back to as far as the teachers, we need to start recruiting with states with much lower pay scales for teachers instead of focusing on Pennsylvania. Laura, give me some more. Laura, we need to talk. I need some more background information too as well. A wealth of knowledge over there, Pascal. Also, nonprofits doing the work in building diverse teacher pipelines like He Is Me Institute and TNTP. And yep, virtuals can be used for snow days. Oh, kids ain't gonna like that too much. No, I'm gonna say that too loud. Home and hospital students are suspended. So yeah, virtual does serve
a purpose.
Yeah, because you get suspended back in the day. What'd you do? Fire the game system.
No comments.
He said no comments.
You was out and about just doing stuff.
I've never been suspended.
Man,
Ask my mama.
I'm gonna ask your wife. Ask my sister.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, if the dad supports it, I understand that. Okay. Kindergarten. Got a little platform for kindergarten on here too as well. Invest in early education, ensuring kindergarten readiness.
Yes.
Institute universal high quality pre-K for all 3 and 4-year-olds. Talk to us about it.
That's coming. I am so excited about that part of the blueprint. So excited.
We catch up, Derek.
Early learning is the foundation of education. It's the entry point, right? So imagine if we can capture more 3 and 4-year-olds to help them get prepared for school earlier, as opposed to kindergarten being their first introduction to school. Imagine sort of where we can be as a society. You know, there is so much data. What is it? It's 80% of the brain is developed by 5 years old. So by the time you reach 5, your brain is 80% developed. But you enter kindergarten at 5. So what happened to 3 and 4? What was going on? So, I mean, I fully support, more kids entering, into pre-K at 3 and 4 years old. So the blueprint, I believe it's school year 25. Someone correct me if I am wrong. I can check my notes. I believe it's school year 25. The county must increase its number of eligible 4-year-olds who enter into pre-K. So currently they have 7 half-day pre-K programs that they've converted to full-day pre-K, because the programs have to be full day.
Right.
But the blueprint also requires the county to work with public-private partnerships, to have private partners sort of support at least 30% of the entering 4-year-olds kind of in their system. So it wouldn't necessarily be the school system taking on all 3 and 4-year-olds. There's definitely a public-private partnership that can be established. But I'm all for supporting our little people and getting into school as soon as possible.
And it's paid by who?
The blueprint, state and local dollars as well.
When both my boys were 3 and 4, I would have loved something like this popping up instead of paying hundreds of dollars a week for some daycare.
Childcare.
Yeah, I'm not saying it was bad, but I mean it's basically a mortgage a month that I'm shelling out. So yeah, I'm all for it. Absolutely all for it.
And imagine what it does for the economy. And we know that women are typically the care providers. So being able to get more women into the workforce, should they choose, because they're able to take their kid to a full day program. They don't have to worry about leaving work at 12 to pick their kid up, or leaving work at 1 to get their kid to the second half of the program,
Exactly.
depending upon whether they're AM or PM kids. But full day programs. Where they're being supported by high quality educators, they're getting a world-class education. I'm very supportive and very excited about this opportunity for Charles County.
Get some of these comments. Nicole, we are behind the curve globally when it comes to early education. The numbers don't lie on that one. Absolutely, yeah. They did not lie about that one.
I'm gonna need a quarter, Jay.
As far as American public education, Laura, we just need to talk about the school space for all the new early childhood programs.
Yes, Laura's absolutely right. There will absolutely be a cost to having more pre-K, because little people can't use big kid bathrooms. So you need little kid bathrooms. Even in elementary school, they can't use the standard toilets; they're too small. So you need little kid bathrooms.
Yeah.
So you're like, not in my house, but but in schools they do. They need smaller bathrooms, so you have to think about like the build out for those facilities. Also, where would they be housed? You can't put them into trailers because they're young children, so you have to have them in the building. So what then happens to the rest of the population in the school? So there are lots of things that Dr. Navarro is currently trying to figure out in terms of getting this implemented. But again, because it's a state requirement,
The money's there.
the money is there. We just have to figure out how to do it. So those are things that are currently being figured out. But for right now, we do have 7 full-day programs in 7 different schools.
You said 7 full-day programs.
Yes, they're
7.
converting the half-day programs to full-day.
Which schools, just out of curiosity?
That I do not know. That I would have to look up.
Okay. I'd like to know. I know. I know. In case you want to have another kid over there, you can find yourself a good school to good school to work out of that way.
We ain't even gonna talk. We ain't even gonna get it.
Looking for another niece and nephew. That's all I'm asking for. I ain't for too much,
No
man.
comment. Not gonna happen.
Climate change is part of your platform too as well. So one of your plans or tenets is to establish a plan to achieve 100% clean energy use in all CCPS.
Yes. So we have roof space. I'm thinking, why can't we have solar panels?
Where's my man Manny and Richard Cook at? They already on the job right now. You said solar panels.
There are a number of grants that like our school district can apply for to get solar panels on the roof, to be able to have cleaner energy. I also talk about in the cafeteria, we have students who, when you get your lunch, you may not eat all of it. So perhaps you don't eat, drink your milk, you don't touch your fruit, those types of things. And all of that gets thrown away. Why can't that be placed in a bin for later use for another student, or allow students to take those home who would like to have a milk or have an apple or have a fruit cup that again has not been touched, but just it can go home with someone else. But you're making faces. What's going on?
I'm just looking at Pascal's comment. Oh my God! Please keep talking. I broke character. Go ahead, please.
Yes. I was like, what's going on? No. So, there are a number of ways that we can have cleaner energy. We sit, from where we sit, we're seeing climate change right here in the county. One of the other programs, shout out to the Citizens Academy that's run by the Charles County government. They have open applications, I believe, twice a year. Shameless plug. Please go out and apply for that program. It exposed me to all facets of the government. And one of the things that they're looking at is climate change and how it's being sort of realized in the county. So figuring out how the school system can be a part of the solutions and not necessarily sort of adding to the challenges. Mm-hmm. So we have a number of farms here in the county. I don't know exactly how we would go about it, but we have the produce right here. We don't have to ship it in from another state. We don't have to ship it in from anywhere else. It's right here. We're fortunate in that way. Why aren't we tapping into it? I'd love to explore. Perhaps there's a reason why we can or we haven't. Mm-hmm. But to me, it just seems logical to try to find ways of getting. And I understand that there are like USDA regulations and things that have to be followed to ensure that things are adequate for children, they're clean. But if there's a way for our farmers to be able to meet those requirements, could we not have local produce sourcing the schools?
Yeah, there's a lot of resources here that we can use too as well. There's not. And as far as you said, as far as we'll go back to the solar panels here, you mentioned that grant money can be given to the schools if we transform to solar panels on roofs.
So there are a number of grant programs that, it was solar panels that it gets said. I could say grant programs, I guess. There are a number of grant programs. The majority of them, of course, would go like state to district, but there are also, grant programs that school districts can apply for directly. Mm-hmm. There are even a few that schools can apply for. So if there are ways that we can explore applying for those grants, and I know we have a robust grants division, within Dr. Navarro's team, but finding ways of tapping into more free money. Of course, grants always come with regulations in terms of, is the money properly used? Did it go for its intended purpose? Those things. But it could be a viable option. And if once the grant ends, there isn't a huge kind of out cost that we would have to absorb, then I think we absolutely should look more into it.
Hey, nothing wrong with asking the question. See what happens from there.
There we go.
I'm just curious if it hasn't been already asked and done
It's possible. Already. It's possible. I think what I'd like to come with is, while I have a series of ideas, and I do have some experience both nationally and locally in working with boards and school systems, wanting to ensure that I'm at least raising the question. I'm at least doing my due diligence as someone who's, carrying the messaging from the parents, the families, the constituents who want to know more about these options. And being able to come back and say, hey, you know what, we tried this in, 92, and it failed because of these reasons, or the roof structures aren't strong enough to support these types of things. But either way, being able to come back and say, hey, we had a discussion about it, this is why it doesn't work, or how it could work, but these could be the repercussions. So that's all.
We'll see.
Indeed.
Pascal says, say solar panels 3 times and Manny appears, and Manny pops up right in the comment section. You cannot make this up. I cannot make this up. I did not pay this man to do that. I did not text him. AJ did not reach out to him.
I don't even know him like that.
Nah, man, he's been on the podcast, friend of the podcast. He texted too as well. Manny, I seen your text. I haven't got back to you yet, but I will respond. Hopefully tonight too as well. I just got to look at a few things on my end. So that's just a conversation between me and my guy. Increasing. Let's see. Last one of your tenets of your plan. Like, once again, it's a lot you have here. We're just touching on a few tenets that we didn't touch on here earlier. And once again, if you could, AJ, just drop the link in the comment section. Appreciate you. Increasing access to locally grown sustainable food and reducing food waste in schools. Build on CCP's existing efforts and increase farm to school programs, school gardens, food education to ensure students have access to healthy, locally grown food.
Yes, exactly what I was mentioning earlier. I kind of got into it a bit prematurely, but we have a number of resources here that we are fortunate to have that other counties don't have access to. I just want to ensure that we're utilizing what we already have and tapping into the richness that is Charles County. We have a number of farm families, a number of very successful farms in the county. So again, finding ways of having them be able to support the school system, being able to buy a portion of their produce, which I'm sure will be a cost savings for them as opposed to shipping it to wherever it may go. You're literally driving it up the road to a school. As I mentioned earlier, I know that there are USDA regulations for what types of food and where the food comes from that can be introduced to the school system, but exploring why we can't have more of that here in the county. You're breaking character again. What's going on?
I'm good. Keep talking.
What's going on in the comment section?
Nothing.
Now I'm gonna look.
Nothing. Nothing. Hey, I'm about to ban Pascal from this chat here in a second. No, but I think it's important because remember growing up. No, you're good. Remember growing up, we did that little project with that seed and you put it in the plastic bag.
Yes.
And it grew.
Yes.
But you mentioned a food garden, like a food garden at an elementary school, and you have the students nurture and care for it.
Yeah, so I mentioned my kids went in Growing Green. Again, Miss Proctor, she was one of the teachers, and I'm so sorry I'm failing to remember this other educator's name. She recently retired as well. Amazing science teacher. They both co-founded the Growing Green program, and even though they were just talking about again, the life cycle of a plant, the inner workings of the stem, the various parts of it. And they were teaching kids, but they were also getting kids into the garden to put their hands in the soil, digging things up, planting planting plants and seeds, and then watching them grow. Mostly tomatoes. But either way, do you know how proud?
Good. Cut that thing in half.
Do you know how proud they were when they came home with their little Ziploc bag of cherry tomatoes?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, they were like, no, we got to make a salad right now. And I'm like, okay, let's get it. And it's like, we have some left. It's like, well, we got to put it in the spaghetti right now because they made it. Ooh. And they understood all the inner workings of it.
It's the pride of the work that you put in.
Pride, right? Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. You grow it. It's a little bit different. There we go. You know what I mean?
Fruits of your labor, literally.
Yeah.
Literally pay you. You pay me a quarter too.
Yeah. So that's some of your platform too as well. What's the word we're looking for? Extensive.
There
it is. This is a lot that you have here too as well. Before we get out of here, I want to talk about your campaign. How's it going so far?
It's going well. It's going really well. People are receptive. It's bringing out the extrovert side that's been dormant since the pandemic. Now that I work from home, so physically getting out there, pounding the pavement, knocking on doors, touching mailboxes for people who are not home, catching people while they're walking, exercising, cleaning their truck, just to say hey, I'm running for school board. They're like, oh, I don't have any kids. Oh, no. But let me explain to you why school board is still important, kid or not. do you live in the county? Obviously you do. You live right here. Do you work? Do you do you service? Do you anything? Oh, get tongue tied. Get excited. What are the things you do in the county? I'm sure you get your vehicle repaired here. You eat here. You get entertainment here. Mostly those services are provided by kids who were in the county school system. If you intend to retire here, your nurses will probably be from the county. So you want to ensure that all of these kids have the best quality education so that you can continue to receive the best services. And so we also know that education ties into crime. The better education system we have, the more opportunities we have for kids, the lower the crime rate as it relates to like their age group.
Right.
So it's been amazing. So talking to people, not just about you have kids, obviously you're invested, but even for those who don't have kids. I've loved connecting with the seniors who are like, I'm not on Facebook. I don't know what's going on. And I'm like, well, let me clue you into what's happening. They're like, well, where can I find out more about these platforms? So being able to share with them, how to get on to the Maryland, voters guide to figure out what district do you live in? Who are you voting for? What are the election dates? Who are the candidates? Who has a website? That is extensive.
Yeah.
It's been really great. And I think people are invested in not only what I'm sharing, but what I intend to do. And again, I do not, or at least I try not to make any promises where I don't intend to commit to. So hold me to it.
That's what we do here. Absolutely. So when's early voting?
Early voting is from the July 7th through the 14th, I believe. Someone correct me in the comments if I'm off a day. It's July 7th through the 14th. So election day is on July 19th.
Yep. And we'll be BNY be live for that one too as well. Ali Rock, Derek Terry, myself, Dev, looking forward to it. Can't wait. So we'll there's 5 people running District 2.
Jamila Smith. District 2 school board. No shade, no shade,
hey,
no shade, no
hey,
shade.
You've been real low key with it.
No shade. Jamila Smith.
You are the first District 2 school board member we've had on here, so it's always good to get someone from my backyard.
Absolutely.
Hopping on the podcast.
And I'm literally in your backyard.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
Literally in your. I was like,
hey, Nicole, you in the comment section? Mandy, too as well. Y'all been here.
Here we are.
Yeah. So looking forward to that. And so if you were to obviously 5, the top 4 make it from there, and then you get elected in the general, then there'll be 2 of you on the school board.
That's correct.
So there it is. That's how it works right there.
I appreciate you framing it that way. Yeah.
Absolutely. Great podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you for thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely.
I think you've done an amazing job. I shared that with you earlier. I appreciate, again, people
Likewise.
bringing their message to the people. That's what it's about. Thank you for making me feel at home and comfortable. This is the second podcast I've done in my life. So.
Oh, wait. What was the first?
Derek Terry.
That's right.
Derek Terry, Mr.
Shout out
Terry.
to my guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna hang my own shingle out. I'm gonna do a podcast.
Hey, do it. Come on now.
It's gonna be YNB.
I know.
Yeah, now you're gonna give me 50 cents or $1 for that one.
I know an audio guy.
Yeah, no audio guy. Hey, look, Nicole. Hey, Jamila's amazing. Look forward to working with her. Well, speaking into existence.
There we go, Nicole. Yes, let's get it.
So, yep, fantastic. This was a round of applause for the podcast too, as well. This has been a lot smoother than the past couple weeks with some of the pods we had. That's no shot. That's just
a breath of fresh air.
It was you was in the comment section yesterday.
I was in the comment section.
Yeah, it was interesting. But
if you don't know me, I'm Facebook user.
Yeah, you're like 1 of 5.
The face has been revealed.
Yeah. No, but the goal here is to show Charles County as candidates. So it's good just to let them speak, kind of drive the conversation with the comments too as well. If I'm able to get to them, if it's not like 30 popping off in like 20 seconds. But that's what we're here for. So AJ, once again, thank you for for your help too as well. Yeah, we'll get you back on here too, working some of the behind the scenes for me. So definitely appreciate it. And once again, where can we find you on social media, Jamila?
Awesome. So again, website is jamilasmith.com. Social media, it is Jamila Smith for School Board District 2. July 4th, you can catch me at I'll make sure I got the wording right. I don't want to, mess anyone up. I will be at I'll be at the Indian Head 4th of July Festival. I've been invited to that.
Okay.
But also why can I not recall it now? It's, goodness gracious, I'm going to forget. Give me 1 second while I pull it up.
Go ahead. What's up, Zebby? How you doing? Take a look at some of these comments. Make sure we clean up a few things. Julie, excellent podcast. Wonderful points. Thank you so much, Jamila. Julie, I'm looking forward to seeing you here soon, too, as well. Keep scrolling up. Make sure we didn't miss anything on here. Yep. July 7th through the 14th for early voting. I'm a voting person. I'm old school. I just like driving up there and, then you see. Yeah, at this point, I've pretty much interviewed everybody in Charles County, at least half of them. So I see your signs, your street teams out there too as well. I dap you up. I take a picture. Why not? Hey, I enjoy the process of electing new leaders or retaining the same too as well. It's very free and open. But go on.
Okay, so I finally got it.
All right.
I will be at the Mi Gente Unidos en Acción.
Oh.
Over in Red Tails Grill on July 4th. Very excited about that. So I'll be out there as well. So,
What time?
That one more time.
All right. Mi Gente Unidos en Acción.
At Red Tails?
At Red Tails.
What time? What time is that going down at?
Folks in the comment who know about that, please help me out and let me know what time it is. But yes, I'll be there. And then in the evening when the fireworks start, I'll be heading down to Indian Head to partake in their event.
I already got plans for the night, but I may be there 12 to 5, 12 o'clock. Yeah,
there we
I may
go.
slide through there.
Slide
there.
Thank you, Pascal.
12 to 5, 1 through 5. Hey, come on now. Y'all give me conflict and information comment section. Which one? I'll show up at 11.
Setting up tables and chairs.
Yeah, I just wait in the parking lot. I'll bring bring a couple of friends with me too as well.
That's right. Drinks and comida.
Hey, come on. I'm all for it. AJ, you got anything for us before we get out of here?
Nah, it's beautiful. Like I said, breath of fresh air.
Yeah, it was solid. Absolutely. Thank you, Charles County, once again, too, as well, for everything as far as the podcast goes.
Absolutely.
We'll be back on Thursday. I'll get in the schedule here in a second. But, Jamila, do you have anything else for us? Any last words not last words, but anything else you want to say to your voters before we sign off?
Well, I would say, one, thanks for the interest. I think you fellas kept it live. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And you said you're just going to be boring, too, as well.
Not boring, but I am nowhere near as salacious as, some of the folks you had on here.
Hey, look, every podcast doesn't need to be...
I'm like, I don't have any skeletons. I don't have any court cases.
Look, I got
none of the above.
Look, I got one heart. I can't be out here. I'm taking off lining from my own tissue for some of these podcasts. I'm like, good Lord, dude, how are you? What are you doing right now? No, this is nice.
No, but again, I'm very appreciative. I asked the voters again just to check out my message, see what I'm about. If you have any questions, all my contact information is right there on the website. I do respond to emails as they come in. I am pounding the pavement. I am in all these communities. District 1 is massive again. District 2. That's where I'm at. District 2 is massive. District 1 is big as well. But there are a lot of neighborhoods to hit. And I do plan to be in the majority of them, which is a lot of people. So just give me some time, but keep a lookout for me.
Okay. We got a couple, my man Manny, vote Manny for Commissioner in District 2. Obviously, run District 2. We got Nicole running for District 3 School Board, too, as well. Let's see if I missed anybody in this comment section still here. Zebby, thank you. Elect Jamila Smith for Charles County Board of Education, District 2. There it is.
Thank you, Zebby.
Make sure I miss anybody else that's in the comment section that's running too as well. Anybody else that dropped in earlier? The creature was going on. Yeah, Facebook users. I ain't touching that. But no, these I love these podcasts. I love doing podcasts. I love talking to the community, interacting. Love also talking to the guests we have on. So thank you very much. Definitely appreciate your time here.
Absolutely.
And I think that's schedule. We'll be back Thursday. Julie Brown on the podcast. Looking forward to that. Also, definitely looking forward to that podcast. Richard Wallace, Vote Wallace District 3. Richard Wallace, hey, Mr. Wallace, we got to talk. We got to have a conversation too as well. Would definitely love to hear your thoughts and get you in the seat too. So let's have a conversation, Mr. Wallace. Thursday we'll be on with Julie Brown, Diary Brother, Washington District 3, friend of the podcast, Diary too as well. She was here recently. July, I'm working some things as far as schedule. But that's that. Begin the podcast or end the podcast. July 14th. You say reach out. I'll reach out. That's no problem. We'll make it happen. See, just like that. Easy. Love getting the work done. It's that simple.
There you go.
Yeah, that was real tough. I did not pay this man to pop in the comment section.
Data driven.
Yeah.
I'm here for you.
There we go. I'm racking up those quarters.
You gotta get some new signs. Nicole would love to come back. I would love to get a lot of people back on this podcast before July 19th. I would like to. Maybe we could work a few things out. I'm trying to work some ideas. There's a couple people expressed interest in coming back, so bear with me and let me work on a few things for our schedule. July 14th, we'll have Commissioner BJ Bowling in the building. That happened tonight. Got the talk to some good people, and we definitely made that happen. So definitely looking forward to Commissioner Bowling on here. See if he brings that food basket too as well that Pascal was talking about. That, because like Xavier said, that would be amazing. I'm hungry. Let's get out of here. Hey, Charles County, we'll see y'all soon. Till Thursday. What's going on with you?
Yo, another day in the lab, baby. So it's always a good day.
Oh,
it's always a good day when we in the lab. You want policing to be better in your communities? The best policing that you can that can happen in any community are people that's actually from the community and that.
Once again, Rick, host BNY podcast, now known as What Happened Week with BNY Dev. How you feeling, man?
I'm in here.
What's good? Comment section.
Here.
Do we drag our people down when sometimes they don't deserve it? For sure, absolutely. In this situation, this man deserves every single dragging that we can do because this is not an example of us.
But you got the angles. You got the knowledge of the game, bro.
This is where you're getting at, the IQ.
Down. Like he's telling you what's going on. He was a bad husband. He was just doing things his way. He's apologizing to his wife, like, yo.
Pat yourselves from the back for that one because if you ain't give yourself awards, I mean, who is?
Yeah, no boy.
Hey.